Commentary by Kirk Stancer, Sarah Hawkey, and McManly Gaming.
Hello and welcome to Nighthawk Racing #F1RST Season 3 Round 8. This week at St. Croix or St. Croix, no matter how you say it. We're at that track, and joining me for the co-coms for the Red Lobby Sprint race and potentially maybe further into the video, we have Kirk.
Oh, I'm glad to be back, and I'm certainly excited for what we have for tonight, Sarah. It's going to be very exciting. I'm sure we'll see plenty of on-track action.
Yeah, a bit of a different one tonight, but we'll get more into that in a second. But just to give you a bit of a basic event information, we've got a 10 race championship, like I said, round 8, so we're getting to that closing stage of the championship. 2 rounds to go, and obviously points will definitely be important in these final few races. But we have 2 lobby splits. We have the red lobby and the blue lobby, and have over 30 drivers registered in the championship. And just giving you a basic event format before I hand it over to Kirk, who will explain a little bit more about kind of the more specific event information. We have a sprint race, which will be 8 laps. We're then going to go into qualifying and then into the feature race, which will be 31 laps around St. Croix, like I say, no matter how you say it. But obviously it'll be a slightly different one, like I said. We're going to run the sprint races as normal with the 2 splits, the red and the blue. And for this one-off occasion tonight, we're then going to merge the 2 lobbies to kind of make a purple lobby for the qualifying and the feature race. Like I say, Kirk will explain a little bit more, and I'll hand over to him now.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. So obviously starting tonight, we have the sprint race. As Sarah mentioned before, it will be separated into red and blue lobby. It'll be 8 laps around this very long St. Croix circuit. We will start with is it 8? I think it's 80% fuel to start the sprint race, so it shouldn't be a problem around here tonight. Although tyre wear 4 times and fuel usage set at 3 times. I think the tyre wear, if you choose to start on the softs, it could be pretty borderline towards the end of the race. It'll be a rolling start to help space the grid out, just so obviously it's only a short sprint race, so if anybody does pick up damage, although it's on light, it won't do anybody's race any favours. And for the start, as we already know, it is reverse average points, so if you missed a round for whatever reason, you don't gain the advantage of starting towards the front of the pack. After that, we'll go on to qualifying being 10 minutes. As you can see, it's tyre wear set for 1 time, so obviously you can do plenty of laps on your choice of tyre. So if you qualify within the top 3, you have a chance for bonus points. 3 for first, 2 for second, and 1 for third place. And then we do have a little caveat that the lap, or the tyre compound you set your fastest lap time on is the tyre you have to start the feature race for. Whether you choose to go all out in qualifying and choose to start on the soft tyre, although it might give you an early race advantage, you kind of limit yourself to tyre wear about how far into the race you go. Then after that, we go on to the feature race. The feature race being 36 laps, well, I should say 31 laps, I apologise, around the St. Croix circuit. So you're certainly in for quite a long race tonight. Again, times 4 tyre wear, times 3 fuel usage. So, as I was saying, the soft tyres, you kind of limit yourself, as they can only do about 7 or 8 laps, where we find with the medium tyre from previous practice can usually do between 10 to 13 laps. We do have a mandatory 2 tyre rule, so you can choose to, any 2 compounds, whether it be soft hard, medium soft, as long as you use 2 different compounds that satisfies the rules. As well as a wet weather rule, where if the moisture bar goes over a third full, and the tyre rule gets thrown out the window, and you use whatever compound you want to in the race. Obviously, St. Croix, I don't believe has rain coded, so we won't see any rain here tonight, unfortunately. but I was seeking submission for the next 2 rounds. It may be a little bit of a change, and as I say, because it's a special occasion, we're going to merge 2 lobbies to have a completely full 16 car grid for the feature race later on. So we kind of use a mixture of the 2 rules when it comes to traction control and stuff like that. But the false start grid check will still be in place, so keep an eye out for any false starters. If you want to take away the points, Sarah.
Of course I can, and obviously just to explain a little bit more, obviously, hopefully you see what we did. We're going to merge into a purple lobby. Like I say, hopefully you see what we did. We kind of merge in the red and the blue together to make a one-off purple lobby. And there's like Kirk said, there is a few caveats. Obviously, we're going to use kind of the blue lobby settings, but red lobby points, and that's what I'll go and explain now. So, as you're probably aware at this point, the sprint race, if you come home in first, you get a nice 22 points, and that goes all the way down to 16th to 1 point. And the driver that gets the fastest lap in the sprint race gets 1 additional point. And for the feature race, this is then almost doubled. First place comes home with 45 points, then all the way down to 16th with 3 points. And again, the driver that gets the fastest lap in the feature race gets 2 additional points. And especially in these last kind of closing rounds of the championship, drivers are going to want these points and they're going to fight for those positions. So some hopefully exciting racing action to come tonight. But let's go and see what drivers we've got on the grid and talk a little bit about St. Croix and get into the sprint race, Kirk.
Absolutely, I'm looking forward to it.
Right, and now onto the track facts before we go and see which drivers we've got on the grid for the sprint race. So, as we've said, we're at St. Croix today. We're driving the B layout, or the B circuit, and it's a 4.5 mile circuit, or 7 kilometres, depending on kind of which unit of measurement you use. It first appeared in GT Sport, a game that we fondly, we love, and it's now appeared in GT7. And surprisingly enough, obviously just relaying the stats of 4.5 miles, it's actually the shortest configuration around the French Lake, which obviously features mostly mid to high speed sections. But yeah, 4.5 miles, still considered the shortest out of the 3 layouts that you can race around St. Croix. Got 14 turns, but that's enough from me. I'm going to hand you straight over to Kirk, who will talk a little bit more about the track.
Yeah, absolutely. St. Croix, well, especially this variant of the layout B, certainly has quite a few tricky corners in it, where it be the little right, left, right as you run to the bridge. So as you run down the hill, you've got to keep it very tight to both curbs to really open up the apex for the bridge, and obviously with the little crest, should we say, on the apex of turn 7 that leads onto the bridge, it's quite easy for the car to get unsettled, force you out a little bit wider. Then there's not a lot of runoff and you end up running straight into the bridge. That's the first real tricky part of the lap. Then further on around lap I believe turn 9, before you run to the back straight, it's very easy to get on the throttle just a little bit too late and have the car understeer off and clipping the wall. Very easy to pick up a bit of damage, or just clip the wall and ruin your run onto the back straight, and especially early on in the race it'll be very easy to lose a few positions there. Then we have after the little black straight with that right kink as you head up towards I believe it is turn 10 I believe. It's that medium speed right, where really you can take any line that you want through there. It's all roughly about the same speed. Very easy to lose the car on the exit if you get on the throttle a little bit eager. I know in my race in third gear I had quite a few snaps there. Also due to the nature of the corner and you being able to take multiple lines into it, it's very easy to see a move get sent there, and maybe a little bit of drama kicking off. A little bit later through the lap, just after that little right-hander, turn 10 I believe, then you got to that very medium to high speed left-right chicane section. Obviously, it's very important to keep tight to the curbs or curbs on all the apex for that little sequence of, I believe it is 3 corners. You don't want to touch the grass. Obviously, grass unsettles the car, very easily done. If you're too aggressive with how much grass you take, you can find yourself spinning out, picking up a very simple penalty or unnecessary penalty just by just being too greedy with the grass. And then in the final corner, again, very tricky, medium speed. Yeah, about 9 miles. I would say medium speed, right under the final corner. Very easy to either run wide from the apex and miss your apex, or just too eager on the throttle and find yourself running wide and clipping a wall, and costing yourself time down the pit straight. St. Croix, obviously, very long lap, looking about 2 minutes 9, 2 minutes 10. I know in my lobby I was running about 2:09 to 2:10, so an easy track to make simple mistakes on and lose time on from very simple stuff. But yeah, that's very much all my track facts, Sarah.
Yeah, and thank you. Obviously, very in-depth track facts, and I'm sure all the, everyone watching will appreciate, the tips and tricks. Obviously, on a few corners, like you say, they are very tricky, and I'm sure you're bound to catch a few drivers out unless they've practiced and kind of iron out those little mistakes. But don't know about you. Let's go and see what drivers we have on the grid, and then get into the sprint race.
Absolutely, let's give it a go.
So over to the grid, and starting in pole position, we have Sophie competing in the likes of eSports and United Sim Team, and hopefully, starting in pole, a little bit of clear air. She will try and stay in front for as long as she can. But just behind her, we have the Dark Lord, aka Louis, and we all know how fast he is and how fast that BMW is. So I wonder how long Sophie will kind of keep the Dark Lord behind her. But in P3, we then have Max Velocity in that McLaren 650S, and he's been quite fast recently. So again, I hopefully, he'd be hoping for a good result here in the sprint race, and especially as just behind him we have Joker, and we saw from the last couple of races, Joker picking that unique strategy, using the tyres that people don't necessarily, choose to use, say the hards. But obviously the sprint race is a complete, different kettle of fish. So let's see how we can do in the sprint race with the likes of the drivers in front and behind. But I'm going to hand over to Kirk, who will go through the rest of the drivers on the grid.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Starting in P5, we have one of the co-founders. We have Midnight ISO. I'm sure we'll be looking at trying to get a podium in this sprint race. Obviously, we've seen Midnight. We've seen him through all 3 seasons. He can pop up sometimes, often unexpectedly, and have quite a good pace. I know we missed missing a few big wigs out tonight, such as Coach and Swizzy off the top of my head. So there's no reason why he shouldn't be finishing in the top 3. Then we have another one of the admin team. We have Mr. Pedro. Again, this fighting for the championship, I believe, with the likes of Kai and McManley. So he'll be certainly trying to look at maximising his result here tonight. Again, there's not really that many drivers to get through here tonight, unfortunately, but there's certainly no reason why Pedro shouldn't be up towards the front. And I guess that you could say the same about a Mac in Key to Kai. Again, on their days, 2 extremely fast drivers. I know things haven't quite been going all the way of McManley this season, but there's no reason why, if it's anything to base it off his usual pace, there's no reason why neither McManley or Key to Kai shouldn't be fighting for the win here in this sprint race, Sarah.
Yeah. And like you say, obviously we're going into the final few races. So, like I say, especially the likes of Pedro, Katie the Kai, they really want to maximise their points. So, yeah, obviously Katie the Kai's got kind of the tallest order of them all, trying to get past all 7 other drivers. So he's got a task in his hands tonight. But I'm sure he'll be trying his best to get through the pack as quick as he can. But I don't know about you, I'm excited to go and watch everyone around St. Croix. and let's see how they all get on.
Yeah, absolutely. Bring it on. Okay, so leading us off tonight for our Red Lobby sprint race, we have Sophie by Dark Lord, as Sarah correctly stated earlier. So heading down towards turn 1, we have Sophia. Everyone running the single file in behind each other. Nobody looking at making a move just yet. As we see Sophie making the apex perfectly fine. Everybody still going single file, should I say, behind. Not too much action just yet, but I'm sure in a few corners time. I say that at the back, it looks like we had Katie Kai look to try and go around the outside, which moved to the inside line on McManley. McManley managed to hold it off just for now, as the outside line allows him to get better drive off the corner as they're running side by side into this next section where you really don't want to go side by side. Katie Kai thinks better of it and just backs off at the time being. At the front, everybody's still going single file. Manley, should I say, having a slight little look up the inside of Pedro there, but everybody running onto the bridge in single file. Nothing untoward happening yet as we look at Max Velocity trying to go up the inside of the Dark Lord, breaking Dark Lord into this left-hander, getting that move done. Something that you don't see very often. The Dark Lord going backwards and losing places on the first lap. So everybody seems to be checking up down towards the back of the pack, but it all seemingly works itself out. Now, as we go up towards the right-hand kink on the first lap, running up the hill. This is the corner I was on about earlier, where you might see a move or two happen here. Is really any line works. We see the Dark Lord going up the inside of Max Velocity and making that inside line work, as we see first place Sophie running a little bit wide into the gravel. Is that going to affect her run going through this little snaking section up towards the final corner? Seems like everybody is still running single file in the top 3 for now, but it looks like the Dark Lord has a very good run. Was that possibly a little bit of contact there between the two drivers? But he thinks better of making a move. As further back, we look at Joker, unsuccessfully defending with Midnight ISO, as we had a spinner on the exit of the first corner, which is at max velocity, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you so much for running us through that first lap. Yeah, like you say, obviously, the first lap is just getting into the groove of it. Not many moves happening, only a couple. But currently, we've got Pedro on the inside line of McManley and potentially looking for a move on both McManley and Joker. Manages to just get in front of McManley, holding that space and being the top Mercedes at the moment. But Joker having a little bit of oversteer coming out of that corner, which obviously did slow him down a little bit, bunching the pack back up together. Mac going for that inside line around this kind of twisty turny bit before the bridge. Very brave, and obviously forces Pedro a little bit wide, which lets Katie Kai back through.
But it compromises Katie Kai's line onto the bridge. Pedro looking at trying to make that cutback work. Katie Kai, should I say, getting very sideways on towards the bridge, but it looks like the power of the Corvette is more than enough to stay in front of Pedro. We're heading up this little left-handed shaft of the bridge. We have McManley looking at the inside Joker. Joker losing that position to McManley. It looks like McManley might have tapped the wall ever so slightly on the exit, which allows Joker to go straight back around the outside of him. But the inside line is the more preferred line for this corner, and McManley takes full advantage of it. And while also overtaking Sophie as well, 2 places in one corner, although it's a little bit of a naughty squeeze for Sophie on the exit. McManley's made 2 places in the space of one corner.
Sorry to interrupt you, the Kirk. I'm not sure if we might have missed something, but obviously max velocity down to P8 and Sophie obviously down to P4. Not sure if potentially there was a collision between the two there that obviously affected both of their positions, but obviously Sophie losing that pole position and down to 4th and trying to fight her way back onto the podium.
Yeah, I think you missed it, Sarah, but Max Velocity spun on the final corner for the first lap. But yeah, Sophie obviously not having the greatest of second laps. Obviously starting the lap in first place now in P5 is Katie Kai also made the move on her. with Katie Kai, maybe running a little bit a little bit behind schedule, as it looks like the likes of Midnight and might have broken away ever so slightly. But, although he may have lost position on the first lap to Joker, looks like lap 3 is Louis who's leading the way, Sarah.
Yeah, obviously we saw him kind of dip a position behind Max Velocity, and like I say, obviously after that spin, he made full advantage of getting into first place, and quite a commanding lead so far. He's got a little bit of a gap to P2, so he's got a little bit of breathing room. But around this track, obviously not enough probably. But in P2 currently we've got Midnight, and with Mac Manley just behind him. So currently Midnight doing really well. But yeah, everyone after the first lap dramas, everyone seems to be settling in, and like I say, battling all the way down the grid. We've got a little bit of a battle between Pedro and Sophie here. Obviously Pedro coming into that corner with a little bit more speed, maybe get caught out a little bit by Sophie braking mid-corner, but yeah, I think drivers making full advantage of trying to get as many points as they can here.
Yeah, as we look on towards the back straight, it looks like McManley got a much better run onto the back straight than Midnight ISO. And Midnight ISO can't really cut McManley off, as he got his side mirror completely full of Mercedes. That move has been made. McManley's down front, but Katie Kai is also looking to follow McManley through, going up the inside here. Oh, I mean, there was a millimeters between the two drivers there, but it allows Midnight to get a better run off the corner with that outside line. He is now looking all up the back of that Mercedes. Can he possibly get a better run through this undulating left-hander towards the final corner? Looks like McManley might have got ever so slightly better run on towards the final corner. It looks like he can defend for now. Although it looks like two different approaches to the final corner by the two drivers, which allows Midnight Ice to get a much better run down the back straight. He gets a little bump there from Katie Kai. McManley defends the inside. Looks like Luke is trying to go around the outside of McManley, but the Irishman can outbrake him in towards turn 1. That also allows Katie Kai to get a much better cutback and run up towards the third corner, Sarah.
Yeah, nice little battle between these three here, and I was just watching Pedro as well, battling out with Sophie, and obviously these three battling meant that Sophie and Pedro have been able to catch up just that little bit, and like I say, obviously the McManley, like you say, basically shutting the door and going, no, I want to defend this position, I want to defend this podium. But yeah, all drivers doing remarkably well so far, and obviously the starting position of KD Kai in P8 to be in P4, halfway, well P3 now, as I said that, halfway into the race, he's done really well so far to kind of storm through the pack.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it'll also be very interesting to see who could come out on top between the two drivers. Obviously, Katie Kai and McManley, I believe, should be quite close together on points, as they were our two drivers at the back of the grid for this reverse average point order grid. Obviously, going based on average points consistently, these two are our two highest finishers. So on paper, they should be pretty closely matched in terms of pace error.
Yeah, and as you say, they're going side by side into this corner here. Midnight poking his head up just a little bit, but thinks better of it. Obviously wants to survive the corner as well behind these two. Oh, as KZ Kai gets a little bit squirrely coming out of that corner, but still going side by side, neither one wanting to give up this position.
Absolutely, it seems like anybody could take this second place. Or as it looks like there might be a little bit of contact between the two drivers, pushing Kai wide ever so slightly. And Kai losing 2 positions there to both McManley and Midnight. But this is where Katie Kai needs to be very strong. At the exit of that final corner, that power, that innate power of the Corvette is really dragging him towards the two drivers there. You see McManley defend again from Midnight ISO. Get Midnight outbreaking, trying to hold that outside line towards the turn 1. Midnight ISO not making the outside line at work. But that allows Katie Kai to sneak up the inside of Midnight ISO. McManley defending very aggressively towards the right hand side of the track, forcing it to, always becoming a roadblock for the two drivers. As you see contact between the two drivers, Midnight Ice and Katie Kai. I'm not quite sure what happened there, but it seems like the stewards might possibly have their hands a bit full with that one, Sarah.
Yeah, definitely one for the stewards there, unfortunately. And Sophie being, nearly caught up in that, but manages to kind of navigate her way through and not hit into the side of Midnight, as I'm sure you know that would have been more devastating. But currently, we've got the two Ferraris battling it out of Joker and Sophie, and somewhere within all that chaos, we have Pedro back up into the podium spots of P3, managing to make his way. Oh, we've got a free wide into this corner with Max. Looked like a bit of a tricky kind of those three trying to navigate that corner there. Obviously, not a corner that we see free wide very often, but most drivers. Obviously got spun round because of the kind of the tight corner and free wide. I think again that would be one for the stewards to look at, but Max Velocity making his way back up the grid after that spin on the first lap.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, it's never over until it's over until you cross that finish line. Obviously, Max Velocity didn't have the best starts to this race. Obviously, spinning on the final corner of the first lap, but yeah, he's kept going around, kept it consistent, and kept out the barrier, and it's seen him rewarded in being currently in 4th place, Sarah.
Yeah, it just goes to show not to give up. You're not sure of what happens during a race, and just sticking it out. Things unexpectedly happen, and you're back into the position that you were, before your mistake. And obviously that's Max Velocity showing there, and we've got Joker just behind, trying to climb a few places, but obviously things at the front have kind of settled out a little bit because of that incident between obviously KV the Kai and Midnight. We've got the Dark Lord up in first position, and I think he's enjoying it up there. He's he's had time to breathe. He knows it is his closest competitor, Max, a few corners behind at this point, so he's able to kind of not take it easy, but got a little bit more breathing room. Max just behind. He's got Pedro to keep him honest. The two Mercedes fighting together, and just behind them, obviously, we've got this battle between Joker and Max Velocity.
And obviously, if these two drivers start fighting between themselves, it could always allow the likes of Midnight and Sophie to catch up. And that goes the same for Midnight and Sophie. They're both, if they both fight, we know how fast Katie Kai can be, so it'll only be possibly a matter of time before Katie Kai catches the two drivers. Although we've only 2.5 laps to go, it certainly seems we've got still got a few battles going, possibly, Sarah.
Yeah, like you said, it's not over until it's over, and I'm sure, especially Pedro and Mac, they'll be fighting out until that last corner. But like you say, obviously, the more battles, the more kind of opportunities Midnight, Sophie, and Katie the Kai have got to catch the grid. But I don't know about you, but I think the Dark Lord has used a little bit of the force, to keep those drivers behind. He's stayed out of trouble, and he's just going to set fast laps after fast laps. So I think Louis back with a bang and looking to pick up a win in the sprint race, and I'm sure he'll be very happy about that.
Yeah, I'm sure. He'll always be happy to return to the top step of the podium. Just a little interesting fact: a 2:08.5 is the fastest time I set on a set of soft tyres in the feature race, and he's done that on the medium. So it just goes to show you how quick the Dark Lord is, Sarah.
Yeah, very lap times that. Well, it's hard to beat, like you say, obviously on different compound of tyres, but to set that on what is considered kind of the middle tyre, that's astonishing. But it doesn't take anything away from your lap time as well, to be able to match the speed of the Dark Lord. But yeah, I think it's going to be hard to beat the Dark Lord with only kind of a lap and a half to go. And I'm sure this boosts the confidence of Dark Lord going into the feature race. He knows where his kind of strong points are, where his weaknesses are, and luckily in the sprint race he's had that breathing time. If he's made a slight mistake, he knows that there's not a driver right behind him that's going to pinch that first place. So it's just confidence building, and going into the feature race he's going to take what it looks like. I don't want to jinx it, but it's going to take a win under his belt in the sprint race and go into that feature race and try and pick up another win. But the rest of the pack have kind of, like I said, settled out. We've got the two Mercedes together, but the gap between them, it's about, I'd say, a second, half a second. Pedro keeping an eye on McManley, but we've only kind of got a lap and a quarter to go, so it's going to be tough for Pedro to catch up. But considering where these two drivers have started, to get onto the podium around here, it's they've done a pretty good job.
Yeah, absolutely. They've kept out of trouble and took full advantage of it when trouble has arose. Um, but isn't this what you like to see? Heading towards onto the final lap, we got our two drivers fighting for second place. So really, this could be anybody take second place, or if they get too aggressive, they could both possibly throw it away, Sarah. As we head on
Yeah,
to the final lap now.
it's always that thing. Obviously, you want to be careful. You don't want to go too aggressive. I'm talking obviously about not necessarily aggressive, but we've got Midnight back up into sixth place, and right on the back of Joker. Can Midnight make a place up on this final lap?
It's it's certainly a possibility as he gets. Oh, well, maybe he's got a little bit wide there on the exit of turn one. It's cost me a little bit of time there. Oh, as we see it up for second place, Pedro is all over the back of his fellow Mercedes driver. Mandy taking that inside line, but Pedro has the more desirable outside line, which allows him to carry more momentum through the corner and doesn't compromise him by being forced to go tighter. As we run on to the bridge now, that little rest there unsettles the car ever so slightly, but it looks like Pedro has the much better run on the bridge. That gap is closing and closing, but is it going to be enough to make a move? I don't think it is, not at this precise moment, but probably the main overtaking opportunity is going to become after this next right-hand corner. If Pedro can keep close, there's certainly no reason why he couldn't have a look in towards turn 10, I believe it is. Must be 10 or 11? I'm not quite sure. But it looks like he possibly did not get the best runs. It looks like McManley might have the second place secured for now, as he has a better run onto the back straight. That gap opening up now to well over a second. As we're looking down towards the pack, it looks like Midnight ISO, who possibly got into a bit more trouble as he lost close to Sophie on this lap, looking to go around the outside of her, going around that little right kink. Heading up towards turn 11, he brakes at the 150 meter board. Sophia tries to brake a little bit later, tries to take that apex. Oh, getting very close between the two drivers again, but it looks like Midnight ISO has the better run out the corner and the preferred racing line. He managed to hold that apex and keep her behind for now. Going through the penultimate corner, can she get a better run up towards the final corner? No, she can't. She gets a little bit wide and all on the grass. It looks like P6 therefore is safe for Midnight ISO, Sarah.
Yeah, obviously, like you say, got caught in a little bit of trouble there, as he did look like he was on the back of Joker, so maybe he dipped a wheel in the grass or something. But a nice little last lap battle between Midnight and Sophie there. And the out of the two Mercedes, obviously Pedro coming home in P3, Mac in P2. Considering where Pedro started, and obviously, like you said, he's currently our championship leader. So I think a podium, he should, hopefully be happy with that. Seeing where his closest competitor in the championship with like Midnight, Katie Dekai finishing slightly lower, I'm sure this boosts Pedro's confidence a little bit going into the feature race. He's got that little bit of a points advantage over his closest competitors. But yeah, all in all, obviously an action-filled sprint race, and obviously hopefully it means we're in for an exciting feature race. But what did you think of the race as a whole, Kirk?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was. It certainly had its moments. Very, very good racing throughout the grid. We saw a few incidents during that race. So we obviously between Katie the Kai and then between, I believe it was Max Velocity, Joker, and Sophie. So yeah, Sophie. So again, thrills and spills. It's pretty much the story of what it has been all season. Stewart's got their hands full. We saw plenty of overtakes, obviously with the likes of Pedro and McManley carving their way through the field to finish third and second respectively. And obviously We had quite a few comeback drives. Obviously, Max Velocity, obviously he spun it on the first lap, ended up finishing 4th. Yeah, we certainly saw a lot of action in that race, Sarah.
Yeah, and obviously it's kind of that, the story of not giving up. Even if you get involved in those kind of first lap mistakes or first lap dramas, you've got 7 other laps to get back into the pack, get back into those battles, and a few of the drivers in that race, they showed that they got the speed, they got the capabilities, they've got the skills, to catch the pack back up and get back into those battles. So yeah, it just goes to show, not to give up, and across the board, fighting for those points in these last couple of rounds is going to be so important when it comes to that final race at Dragon Trail. So yeah, pretty interesting to see where kind of people made their mistakes, and it was also interesting to see the different lines going into, especially that section before the bridge, especially McManley going into the inside line, like you said, compromising his line, but managed to hold it and kind of, I don't know, it kind of surprised the drivers around him. The drivers around him thought, Max going for that inside line, which is not recommended, but he's holding it. Oh, I better, let him through. Obviously, I don't want to go too wide into this section here. So, Mac quite clever with that move there. I'll be interested to see if he does that in the future race. But yeah, I don't know about you. Let's go and hand over to the commentary team in the blue lobby. Obviously, they're going to go and watch the blue lobby sprint race, and then we'll join you back for the qualifying and then the feature race.
Yeah, absolutely. I will see you back for the feature.
So, here is your rundown for the grid of Blue Lobby Sprint Race here today at Circuit de St. Croix. Layout B, can't forget the B. Alright, so starting on pole for the sprint race is Piper in the BMW M6, not the M3. I didn't forget it this time, but in that beautiful number 73 M6. Let's see if he can hold the lead heading into turn 1 and throughout the track. See if he can defend off from Mr. Steven behind in the Beetle VGT. It's an interesting car, that one. I've always said it. It's always one to watch. Very unique choice. And of course, we know he's won one of the races at Austria. Let's see, starting from P2, can he chase down Piper and even hold off from, of course, who's behind him? Saber Venom in the Porsche. Got a podium last time out in Brands Hatch. We'll be very interested to see what he can do in his performance today. Bertie behind him in the V12 Vantage. Of course, it's been a up and down season for Bertie, so you have to see how he can do here at Circuit de St. Croix. This track is going to challenge drivers in a lot of ways. Lots of bumps, lots of undulation, loads of spanners going to be thrown into the works for drivers today. Let's see how he can do. Then behind him is Lee, of course, fellow eSports team manager and BTCC in the Porsche number 80. We'll see what he can do today. We know he's had some pretty strong performances this season. Then, of course, our own Sarah Hockey behind in the 650S with that beautiful blue and navy livery. Let's see what she can do here today. Starting P6, of course, and behind her is Kirk, who got a win in the feature race last time out at Brands Hatch in the BMW M6 as well, joining Piper alongside him in the BMW manufacturer. And then, of course, starting at the back of the grid for this race will be Koulios and Ripon de Terran. Koulios in the BRZ. And of course, that car, another unique choice. We don't see many people running it, but of course, a very nice delivery on that. Let's see how will the BRZ perform here today at Circuit de St. Croix. And then, of course, the 4GT race car being ran by Ripon de Terran, number 16, starting at the back of the grid. I'm ready for this race here, Midnight.
Yeah, likewise, it's going to be an interesting one. Lots of fast drivers, particularly on the last couple of rows here in the blue lobby, and I'm definitely excited. Let's see what this track can give us with these drivers.
Here we are for the sprint race blue lobby here at Circuit de St. Croix. Piper lining up in front with Steven following him. They're going to get the green light here in a second. And there they go, off with that rolling start. Piper leads out the pack as they're heading into this very long run into turn 1. No moves in the pack so far. They are pretty spaced out. However, as they say that, it looks like Kirk was pulling out from behind Sarah to try and make a move, and it looks like side by side exiting turn 1. No move made yet. There's a bit of contact there as they're just heading out of turn 1 now into this lovely right-hander. But up at the front, it's still Piper leading with Steven in second, Saber Venom in third. So no changes so far except for Kirk there gaining a position as it looks like ripping the Terran off into the wall, off of that corner. Very unfortunate for the Ford GT race car driver. But up at the front, it's all holding steady right now as we file our way down into this very bumpy right-hander before the bridge section. Can catch a few drivers out very easily. It looks like Koulias as well making a move on Sarah. We didn't see that one, unfortunately. But up at the front still, as I said, it looks like actually Bertie and Saber Venom side by side for a move, and Sarah's after having a bit of a collision in the back actually. Unfortunately, maybe getting caught out by the bumps in that corner as Saber Venom spins around into the wall, and that's damage for the Porsche driver. Ripping the Terran is now going to catch up to him and overtake him around the outside. But very unfortunate there for the Porsche driver. Maybe just a bit of a collision in that overtake with Bertie, or maybe just getting a bit too eager on the throttle. That will be up to the stewards to investigate that after the session. But as we go down this very, very long straight, broken up into 2 sections, of course, there's a slight right kink on that straight, but it's all in the air as there's nearly 4 wide for a second there between Bertie, Kirk, Lee, and Koulias. We'll have to see who can get out of this one on top, but it looks like Bertie is going to have the last laugh in that battle as it's Bertie in P3 with Lee making up a position, or not making up a position 2, but nearly made a position on Bertie into that corner. But Koulias getting past, ripping the Terran as well. That was a interesting first lap at midnight. Lots of chaos just towards the end there.
Absolutely, and a couple of drivers at the back. Sarah ripping to Terran, and I think it was Haslett having an incidents across the lap. But we've got this fight going on for P2 down to P6. It were 4 drivers absolutely together coming into the first turn. And Lee up to P2 down the inside. Stephen might get a bit of a cutback here, but Lee trying to make the move up to P2. Stephen fighting back, and we also got Kirk and Bertie going at it as well.
Yeah, going side by side into that slight right kink before the pretty much 90-degree left-hander, and yeah, positions changing constantly here as Lee taking a bit of that kind of whited out runoff, just maybe trying to get a better edges into the corner, but definitely trying to defend position as Bertie and Steven battling there, the V12 Aston versus the Beetle. But unfortunately looks like Bertie is going to come out on top there for Steven. But up at the front you can see Kirk and Lee are chasing down Piper up ahead. We'll have to see how this battle will run its course over the next few laps, because it does look like they're catching, but they do have quite the train chasing along behind them as well.
Yeah, Piper out front having an amazing first lap. We haven't really seen him or said much about him, but it's because he's driven brilliantly. The drivers all behind, fighting over the places, slowing each other down, and let Piper just get away. He's a good couple of seconds clear down the back straight, but he does have 2 very fast drivers coming at him at the moment in the form of Lee and Kirk. Kirk with obviously recent win at the feature race in Brands Hatch, so he's definitely on form at the moment, and he's going to be wanting that P2 and then hopefully P1 from his perspective. But Bertie having a cracking race so far. He struggled recently in a couple of the races with the new physics and the tyre wear, but at the moment it looks like that V12 Aston holding strong, and Steven still got Koulias on the back of him. All drivers showing a lot of good sporting behaviour so far. No real big incidents, but at the moment very close racing. Good to see.
Yeah, definitely. So now everything's settled down. We always see this about 2 or 3 laps into the sprint. Of course, these are quite long laps here at Circuit of St. Croix. We've only got 8 for this sprint race. It's quite a long lap time compared to some other tracks, usually about a 2:10. As you see Lee now battling with Kirk. Lee on the inside into turn 1. Small bit of contact on the exit, but they both head out of that corner fine. But Kirk just trying to make a move there and not being able to stick it. He's definitely going to want to try and overtake Lee. This may be the battle for the lead if they do manage to catch up to Piper. We'll just have to see towards the end of the race how that will pan out. As you see Lee taking that runoff once again, maybe just trying to break the slipstream into this kind of right-hander. Of course, there's a bit of a run heading into this S's section, so maybe just trying to break that slipstream, trying to phase his driver, the driver behind him, and Kirk just looking for a way to get past, but none coming up right now. But maybe I spoke too soon. He's going to try around the outside potentially into the corner after this bridge section.
Yeah, quite possibly. Lee's going defensive, and Kurt looks like he's trying to make his way around the outside. No room there this time, but he's going to be in the slipstream down that back straight, and they're already nose to tail. One thing I have noticed is Lee has gone for the soft tyre, so that is going to be paying in dividends right now, but towards the end of this sprint race, those tyres are going to be absolutely screaming, and Bertie is in the exact same scenario. So these two of the top four are going to be wanting to get away before those tyres drop off. But we can see just in the background, Koulios has gotten past Stephen, see him down to P7 after Ripon de Terran's gotten past him as well, with Haslett, Sabre Venom catching as well. So there's a bit of strategy going on here. And at the moment, we can still see Kurt making a dive down the inside. Those medium tyres on that M6 working well. And that has left Lee down in P3 with Bertie in that V12 right behind him.
Yeah, we see a bit of a peculiar situation this race, especially with the fact that we're seeing some drivers run that medium set of tyres. We've seen, like, kind of over the course of the season, the soft always being the preferable tyre. This track quite high speed, and as I mentioned, long lap time. It punishes those tires very hardly, especially if you're in one of the high tire wear cars. Obviously the 650S drivers would be kind of laughing at all of us right now. In other manufacturers struggling with tire wear, but we see now Sabre Venom trying to make a move on Ripon de Terran down the inside into turn 1. Very nice move, clear by the exit. Good move there from the driver. He is, of course, trying to make reparations after having that issue earlier on this race.
Yeah, Haslett making his way back up. We know him as Haslett and Sabre Venom. So he is making his way back up, as you say, making those reparations. He's going to be wanting to hopefully get up to P5, but he's going to have a chance if those drivers' tyres in front of him on those softs do fall off. And I'll be honest, I am worried about those tyres. We're halfway through, and those tyres are already halfway down on the old tyre wear, so that is going to be a bit of a management task for those drivers now. But out front, Piper still leading away, looking fast, looking good. He's put in a lot of practice for this race, and it's absolutely showing. And Kirk is absolutely no slouch in that other M6, and he is catching, but he's not catching rapidly. Can Piper hold him off, Mac?
It's going to be the battle of the same manufacturer. We've got the two M6s now in P1 and P2. Yeah, it's going to be interesting because, of course, as we know, very long straight that they're currently on here right now, as I said, kind of split up into two sections because of that kind of right-hand kink, but it's still flat the whole time. But as soon as you get within about a second and a half of the other driver, you start to get the benefits of that slipstream, and it is very, very powerful at this track. In fact, I'd say if there's a driver within about 6 or 5 tenths within you by the start of the straight, it's pretty much impossible to fend them off by the corner that ends the straight. So it's going to be interesting. Piper's just going to have to keep the pace up that he has right now. He's going pretty well as he is, but he'll just have to keep it up. Oh dear, looks like maybe a bit of an issue for Piper on one of the corners, because now Kirk is right alongside him.
Yeah, I think there was a slight issue in the last couple of corners, as you say. The side by side into the first corner, Mark.
Yeah, side by side, Kirk down the inside, like the move that Haslett or Sabre Venom did, just clear by the end of that corner. But Piper may have a chance to fight back now as he's just getting a small bit of slipstream. Is he going to try and make a move? No, unfortunately not. But that's unfortunate there for Piper, as you said, just maybe a mistake in that last sector. We do know there's two S's sections. There's one right here that they're going into, and there's one towards the end of the lap. And both of them are very punishing on the tyres and can be very difficult to perfect as well, especially once those tyres start wearing and as the race goes on. But yeah, looks like Kirk is up and into the lead now. So Piper's main concern will either be trying to get past Kirk, or if he can't keep up with Kirk, try fend off from Lee and stay in that second podium position.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Haslett in front of Ripon de Terran a moment ago? Because he's now back down in 7th, Sarah's up to 8th. Stephen's fallen down to the back. So there's been a couple of switches in positions for the remainder of the points, but lots of movement all the way around the grid. And I've got to ask you, Mac. I've got a query for you. Lee taking that really unique line round the tight downward left-hander at the top of the course. Is that going to be giving him any particular benefit, do we think?
You know, it's a good question. Into that section of the track, I mean, it depends, because it's a bit of an interesting move. You know, there's different lines drivers take, but that's definitely one that's kind of stood out the whole day. And to me, at first, I am not sure if it presents any advantage unless you're trying to, you know, put your opponent off. But in my opinion, I think maybe not much benefit unless you're trying to, because there is a bit of a straight there, so maybe trying to negate every effective slipstream as possible.
Oh,
to me, I'm not so sure. Maybe just a bit of a driving deviation.
A little bit. Bertie coming in the pits. He's given up on those soft tyres. He's realised it's not going to work. But at least that's information for him for the race. But I did see also Koulios running wide, giving the barrier a bit of a clunk as well. So we are seeing a couple of drivers make a few mistakes as Koulios runs wide through turn 1. Gets away with it. But a couple of mistakes on the strategy and switches his positions. But it's one person's loss is another person's gain round here. It's one course that you have to stay. The way I would describe it, it's almost like a fast, undulating Monaco. If you get something wrong, you're in a barrier. And at the moment, we've got Lee, whose front tyres. He's going to try and go to the end, I feel. But can he manage that gap back to Koulios? Koulios not making particular inroads at the moment, despite the much better worn medium tyres.
Something to watch for the rest of the race. But, I mean, as you said, yeah, undulation, lots of it. Lots of bumps. Definitely affects these Euro 3 cars around here. It's going to be interesting to see how they're going to manage it. Because, obviously, it's an 8-lap sprint race right now, but as soon as we go into that endurance race, which is way longer than the sprint race, having to go over them bumps and keep control of the car for prolonged distance of time, we'll have to see how a driver's going to manage it. But yeah, Lee looks like his tyres are a bit worse for wear. We'll have to see, is he going to be able to keep him out of the danger zone for these last 2 laps soon once they cross the line? I think maybe not. May get to red on one of the tyres by the time they get there, possibly the front left, I'd say. But once we know now with these new physics, once one of the tyres gets to red, it's like driving with no rubber on the rim at all. It's horrible. It's
a flat, basically. And it's something that we did see a little bit of in the red lobby, and then we saw a lot of adjustments, and I do recommend everyone going to go and check our YouTube to check any other races that we've got. But in this video we will have the feature race, the purple lobby, with these drivers and the red lobby drivers all together. So what all drivers are going to learn here, going to take into that purple lobby and hopefully have some fun. But to keep an eye on what's going on with the strategies, Bertie goes very wide into the penultimate corner. Bertie on those fresh softs is going to be trying to make some inroads and catch Miss Sarah Hawkey. So let's see what Bertie can do. Keep an eye on him. I think the key will be, can Lee hang on for the next lap and 3/4, and will he stay ahead of the other drivers behind him? That is the absolute key at the moment. It's what I'm watching, because Kirk looks like he's got this in the bag as long as he can keep it on the black stuff, and Piper having the drive of his season so far, I feel.
Yeah, definitely. I just want to mention as well, it looks like Sarah is going to make a move here down on the inside of Saber Venom, and he's going to get it done. Brilliant move from the 650S driver. Saber Venom's going to try fight back now on the outside into the S's, but I'm not sure if that's going to work. That inside line, way superior. Sarah's going to have to position our car. Oh! Saber Venom into the wall. Big crash there for the Porsche driver. I was going to mention just before the Sarah move happened that Saber Venom actually clouted the wall in the final corner, which allowed Sarah and Bertie to catch up to him. But it's ended in disaster for him, as now hitting the wall in the S's, maybe those tyres just not hanging on long enough, having some issues with sliding in that car. But now facing the right way on the track, but very unfortunate for the Porsche driver there now.
Yeah, that's the last thing he would have wanted, but he'll get away with that for this race, so that damage will take care of itself. At the moment, we do have a couple of battles on track. We've got Sarah Hawkey chased down by Bertie in those fresh, soft tyres. And Koulios has fallen behind Ripon Deterren. So we've seen that Ripon Deterren in that 4GT make some great movement through the pack so far. And again, my eyes are going to be going towards Lee in P3. He's trying to close down Piper a little bit, but those tyres are definitely going to be screaming enough by the end of this lap, let alone the next one entirely. He's going to have the job on his hands to stay ahead of Ripon Deterren and Koulios. It's a 2-minute lap round here and a lot of right-handers. It's almost like Barcelona with, again, that lovely word, undulation round here. So it's going to be a tricky one for Lee.
Yeah, I mean, he's literally just about to get to red on that front left. As soon as that goes to red, it's going to be a considerable less amount of grip, and even just sliding into that corner and Ripon Deterren already you can see making inroads to the Porsche driver. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a tense last lap as Lee is getting chased down by the two drivers there. Sarah is going to have a bit of a job on her hands as well because Bertie is also right on her gearbox. So that's going to be another battle to watch heading into these final laps.
There you go. You can see it. Lee's got absolutely no way to turn right. He's going to be a sitting duck. Ripon Deterren holding back, coming onto the bridge. Koulios joining the party. Little bit of contact with Ripon Deterren, and Ripon Deterren's round. That is massively unfortunate for Ripon Deterren. That has lost him a load of time, and that is Koulios. That is definitely one for the old stewards. But now, can Lee hold off Koulios? That is unfortunate for Ripon Deterren. What's your thoughts on that one, mate?
Yeah, you know, when there's a car in the middle of the track like that that's going slow, of course, not blaming Lee for the incident because Lee is just driving his car where he wants to drive the car, which he's entitled to do as lead driver, was sticking to the same line in the braking zone and everything. It's just when two drivers coming up to that kind of stricken car, maybe just a bit of confusion between Ripon Deterren and Koulios. Ripon Deterren wanted to go one way, Koulios wanted to go the other, and a collision there. And you see as well Koulios just getting past Lee. So that is going to be a very handy podium for Koulios in the bag now, as we see Sarah and Bertie fighting it down the straight into that fast right-hand kink. And Bertie ahead before the corner even comes up. But will Sarah try and make a move here now? Unfortunately not. Too far back. Bertie late on the brakes there now. As we see, coming up to the line, Kirk is going to win the race with quite a healthy gap between himself and Piper. Of course, double M612. There's a M612 here at Circuit St. Croix. Very cool to see. It looks like the M6 is dominating that sprint race for them two drivers. Koulios coming up to the line with that last lap bagged podium, with Lee coming home in fourth with nearly 2 red tyres there. Ripon Deterren, of course, caught out a bit unfortunate by that incident with him, Koulios.
What's happened to Bertie? Bertie's been in the wall some ways.
Oh, look like...
That's unfortunate. He's dropped down to P7, Mac.
Believe may have been an incident into the corner where Bertie had gotten ahead just after that straight. Bertie may have braked a bit too late and hit the wall with his front left, but that lets Sarah get up into P6. Bertie into P7, of course, dropping back behind Sarah once again on that final lap. Stephen heading home in 8th, and just an unfortunate end to the race for Sabre Venom, or as we know him, Haslett, who had that collision into the last corner and into the S's while fighting a few drivers. And that's going to round out your 9 drivers and where they finished for the sprint race.
Well, what can we say, Mac, about that race? That had absolutely everything, and unfortunately for a couple of drivers it didn't go the way they wanted, but some great drives, particularly at the front. A couple of things for the stewards to look at for absolute sure, but that is going to be leading us nicely into what we got coming next, which is of course the purple lobby, with half the red drivers, half the blue drivers all together in a big race. So Mac, this is going to be fun, and we're going to go over to commentary with yourself and Sarah Hawkey. So Mac and Sarah are going to be taking this one. Let's have a lot of fun with the upcoming feature race.
Right, so just going to run you through the grid where everyone qualified before we get into the feature race of the Purple Lobby. And starting in pole position for our 8th race of the season, we have Katie Dekai in the Corvette, setting a lap time of 2 minute 08.061, and setting on the mediums as well, so a very fast lap time by Katie Dekai there. And only starting 4 tenths behind, we have Midnight in the Mclaren 650S, setting his time on the softs. So a really fast lap time by Midnight there. In P3, we have the Dark Lord, aka Louis, in the BMW M6. P4, we have McManley in the Mercedes. And the highest qualifier out of the Blue Lobby drivers, we have Kirk in P5, and setting a lap time of a 2 minute 09. So really fast lap time by Kirk there in that BMW M6. And starting just behind him, we have Koulios in that Subaru BRZ. P7, we then have our championship leader of Pedro starting in P7 in the Mercedes. P8, we then have Max Velocity in the second McLaren 650S. And Kirk, if you could run through the other half of the grid for me.
Yeah, absolutely, Sarah. So starting in P9, also on the soft tyre, we have Ripon de Perrin on a 2098. Only, well, not even a tenth back, we have Sophie in 10th. She has the fellow Ferrari driver in Joker just behind her. Then in P12 we have Haslett or Sabre Venom P12. 13th we have Bertie. 14th we have Stephen. 15th we have a Miss Sarah Hawkey. And 16th, and rounding out the grid, we have Lee in qualifying P16th.
Yeah, and that's your grid for the Purple Lobby feature race. I don't know about you, Kirk, but I'm excited to see how everyone's on. And yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this Kirk guy in P5 might have a bit of potential to do quite well.
Oh, I don't know about that, but we'll see. Let's get into it. Right, so getting ready for lights out and away we go for round 8 at St. Croix. We've got a purple lobby, so we've got the grid combined and to make one massive grid. But we've got KD the Kite off in first place, Midnight closely second, but already a battle between himself and McManley going side by side through the first corner. So this is probably going to be a battle we see for quite a few laps to come. But everyone looks like they've got off of the grid nice and clean. Already kind of eager to get in front of their closest competitors. But yeah, as you can see, it's a night race, so you can see all the the brake disc glowing up. You can see the lights, so we're in for a good race. Oh, it looks like Sophie lost a bit of time there in the Ferrari, goes slightly wide. But Mac, anything caught your eye in the first few corners?
Not particularly. It looks like everybody pretty clean except for a little excursion there, as you said, from Sophie in the Ferrari 458. But pretty clean. Not much position changes really. Just fairly uniform start from everybody. And as you mentioned, lovely to see the cars at night time for once. Not something we have very often. But yeah, we'll have to see how this race is going to pan out for the next few laps while everybody's still bunched together, and they will still be bunched together as it's going to be slipstream as Koulios has had a spin in the background. That was a bit peculiar. He spun towards the barrier there. You'd usually expect to be spinning off left, but it looks like spun right towards the barrier on the right-hand side. But beside that, I'm looking forward to these next few laps as there's going to be a lot of slipstreaming heading down this straight.
Oh yeah, 100% agree. And yeah, it did look a little bit weird from Koulios there. I'm not sure if there was he tangled himself up with another car, or just a little bit too eager on the throttle there. But like you say, a little bit of a weird accident. But these things happen on lap 1. People wouldn't have it any other way, first lap dramas. But just looking up at the front, we've got a little bit of a gap from Katie the Kai back to Midnight, but McManley obviously just behind, keeps peeping his head out to see if there's a move that he can make on Midnight. But yeah. Looking through the grid, we've got Kirk as well. Obviously, he qualified quite high. He's normally kind of resident Blue Lobby driver, so to qualify and to start quite high, I'm sure Kirk will be very happy about that.
Yeah, definitely. I just want to point out something completely unrelated to this whole first lap, but man, does that 4GT race car from Ripon de Terran look so cool when you look at it from the rear. There's like that little glow, I think, near kind of near where the fuel port is, but oh man, it looks impeccable at nighttime. But besides that, it looks like we had someone looking for a move there into turn one. And in fact, now Pedro is going to try head around the outside of Ripon Tataryn into that left-hander, but looks like Ripon Tataryn just going to have the upper hand on that inside line. A few of these corners a bit strange in the way that sometimes the outside is the quicker line, sometimes the inside is quicker line. Always good to have that variety in corner types and shapes. But yeah, looks like Pedro just not able to get that move done, but he will, of course, have another 30 laps to do so.
Yeah, it's all about biding your time, making sure that the move is right for both yourself and the car around you. But we've got McManley and Midnight going side by side, coming off of the bridge. Who's going to break later out of the two? Looks like they break about this kind of the similar point on the track, but Midnight staying ahead, having a little bit of a wobble. But as he comes out into this kind of tight section, and they're also joined by the Dark Lord now. So 3 cars into one corner. I'm sure they'll be eager to try and get in front of each other as we see the Dark Lord trying to go for a move on McManley, going side by side here. But like I say, it looks like they're quite matched on their speed at the moment, so it's going to be kind of who breaks later. And it looks like the Dark Lord's just got in front of Mac here, but I'm sure Mac will be trying to get that move done as he goes into the inside. And looks like he just about got out of that move there. It looked like if the two were going to come together, that could have ended up nasty. But Mac thinking, I need to fight for another day. But just looking just behind, we have Max Velocity looking for a move on Ripon Tataryn as well.
Ripon Tataryn looks like he actually got past Max Velocity heading into that right-hander, and pretty good move, but now going to get re-overtaken round the outside from Max Velocity. That's a brilliant move. Don't see many overtakes into that final corner. Great move, and in fact that let Pedro get past as Ripon Tataryn didn't get the best of exits, maybe just caught out there by such a unfamiliar move around the outside of that final corner. But now as you can see up ahead, it looks like Max Velocity and Pedro side by side as they head into the right-hander. And now into this left-hander again. Pedro looking down the inside. Looks like there's just not going to be space for a move right there. And Max Velocity kicking up just a bit of dust, just for good measure.
It looks like Katie the Kai somewhere in that section there has picked up a half-second penalty, but just behind we have a battle for P2 between the Dark Lord and Midnight. Looked like the speed of that M6 just had that little bit more on the McLaren, and the Dark Lord was able to get past, but Midnight's not going to give up. But yeah, like I said, obviously the battle between Max Velocity, he's in front of this pack now, but Pedro, obviously being the championship leader at the moment, I think is eager to try and get past Max Velocity and trying to catch the podium drivers.
Yeah, definitely. We saw a bit of a snap from Pedro there heading out of the left-hander just after the bridge. And it looks like Pedro will be getting a good dose of slipstream down that straight, as Midnight as well is getting a really nice dose. Trying to just catch back up to Dark Lord and launch a move, but too far back. Once again, Kai up front, as you mentioned, does have half-second penalty. Wonder if that will affect Dark Lord's chase on him. Obviously, half-second, it's more like a second sometimes, depending on the track. Of course, the penalty zone will be actually after this S's section, so we'll see how far he'll catch back up. You can see that yellow bar above Kai's username come up, and we'll see now. It looks like Kai will just manage to stay ahead in that Corvette, but it does mean that Dark Lord has caught up to the back of him, which may be crucial, as that long straight will give him a chance to slipstream and get past potentially for the lead, and may carry Midnight and Mac Manley along for him.
Yeah, and I was just looking behind at Midnight as well. Obviously, looking at the tyre compounds, Midnight compared to the drivers around him is on the soft compounder tyre. So it's he's gone for that aggressive start strategy, but will it pay off? He's going to have to pit before some of the guys around him. So it's going to be tight for Midnight. But at this obviously 4 laps in, he's still got quite a lot of tyre wear. We'll say about half, just over half. But when you compare it to the likes of Dark Lord, who's got so much more tyre wear, I fear for Midnight here he's going to drop back a little bit come his first pit stop.
Yeah, definitely. But we do know, of course, oh dear, Midnight just heading a bit wide there, heading over the bridge section. But yeah, Midnight will have to pit earlier, but we know that 650S is pretty good in tyres, as we see Dark Lord trying down the inside now after the bridge section, side by side, very tight between the two drivers. Kai getting a snap of oversteer in the Corvette, not very happy that he put on the power early there as they head now. Maybe going to be side by side for the straight, but that inside line isn't very favorable into this long radius right-hander. But they're still side by side. Kai managed to get ahead, but Dark Lord clears him with the better exit off that corner. But will Kai pull back into the slipstream? Yes, he will. Now on the inside for the right-hander for this corner, we'll see, will the Corvette driver be able to launch a move and get back past? He's going to have to brake pretty late, as McManley has also got past midnight, but Dark Lord manages to fend off, not just into the S's section now, Kai managing to clear him.
I'd say what a battle between the top two. You know, they were side by side through sections where you wouldn't normally see, you know, drivers risking it by going side by side. So yeah, a very good showing from KD the Kai and the Dark Lord there. You know, it shows it can be done. And obviously, while these two have been battling, it's brought the likes of McManley and Midnight back into the fight. So obviously, a four-way fight for the top spot of the podium. Only 5 laps in.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, Kai is going to have to fend off here now. As you said, there's of course 3 drivers behind him that are definitely going to be looking for it. And if he can't pull out of that like slipstream range before that straight, it's going to be pretty hard for him to keep the lead. And I bet you we'll see a few swaps of position for that lead over the course of the race. Just further back, we does look like it might be a move between Sophie and Rippin' the Terran here, as they're about to head into the S's section. But nothing coming of it right now. But they are pretty much gearbox to front bumper to rear bumper, and yeah, no move coming of that. But these drivers are still very close here in the top 4. But Midnight looks like he's dropped back a small bit. Maybe the soft tire is just wearing out. As we saw him kicking up a bit of dirt as well earlier on, potentially. So a bit of an issue for Midnight. Of course, you can see there is a bigger gap than there was further behind. Kirk, Joker, Max Velocity, and Pedro all kind of chained together, about a second between each driver respectively. And it looks like, I'd say there will be a good battle here as well between these 4 drivers. I mean, they're very, very skilled, and we've seen some brilliant battles from all 4 of them in the past. But it does look like the timings are changing. Maybe a move between Pedro and Max Velocity within the next few seconds. And yes, Pedro got an absolute brilliant exit off of that right-hander. Going to be on the outside here, Max Velocity, not able to get alongside him though, so maybe might wait for a late braking move heading into the hairpin. And it looks like he might, on the inside, very, very close. It's going to be front left to rear right between the 2 drivers. Looks like Pedro just can't get it done, unfortunately, and Max Velocity managing to squeeze him on that corner entry.
Yes, that thing, obviously you don't want to light up the tyres coming out of that corner, so Pedro having to back out of that move quite late, but obviously wanted to fight another day. But yeah, obviously going back to that top kind of 4, the softs of Midnight have really kind of dropped off. He's only got about a quarter wear, and you can kind of see that already, you know, how far he's dropped back from the podium drivers. But you know, it's nothing wrong with going with that aggressive strategy. Obviously we've got the likes of Rippin' the Terran also on the softs, and he's managed to make up a couple of positions here. So it's always, you know, that aggressive start is good to start off with, but unique strategies will definitely be at play in Midnight's, you know, kind of the master of that at the moment. Yeah, obviously going back to Pedro, he's picked up himself up a 1 second penalty, so that won't help at all when he's trying to overtake Max Velocity in the next couple of laps. And it looks like we have lost, unfortunately, Saber Venom, aka Haslett, an unfortunate disconnect or a DNF. Obviously not what you want to see, but hopefully, you know, hopefully can join us for the next race. It's a difficult track, and obviously, if you're having any sort of technical issues, it's kind of made worse, you know, when the track is so difficult to drive. But obviously, wish him well. As we see a battle between Koulias and Lee. The 2 drivers going side by side and kind of swerving over the bridge section, none of them wanting to kind of yield their position. It was quite interesting to see Koulias and Lee weaving on the bridge sections, but it looks like Koulias has got that inside line, and with a little bit of kind of eager throttle, he's managed to get himself in front of Lee, but Lee not wanting to give up just yet.
looks like a battle here between the 650S driver and the Beetle driver. It's, of course, Sarah and Stephen, none other, as a bit of contact, actually, as they head down the straight now, side by side, wheel to wheel, down this straight. As they're going to come up to this right kink, Sarah will have the advantage because of that inside line, and in fact, able to clear Stephen before the corner even comes up. Brilliant stuff. Might see a move from Stephen, late braking potentially into the right-hander. Of course he will. Down the inside, attempting to get back past, but just not being able to seal that move. And Sarah going to stay ahead there. And a very good move from Sarah, heading onto the straight.
And yeah, just going over to Lee, he picked up some damage from that collision with Koulios, so that might see him come back into the pit. But as we see, there's quite a gap between KD the Kai and Dark Lord here. I'm not sure if you know Dark Lord wanting to look after his tyres or kind of a little error. But yeah, KD the Kai having a little bit of breathing room as the Dark Lord drifted through that section there. But yeah, across the grid, we're only 7 laps in. There's kind of 2 kind of battles going on at the moment, but everyone, driving really cleanly so far. And yeah, a lot of action throughout the grid.
Yeah, definitely. It's honestly, I'm still really really happy about the night race. But besides that, it looks like the grid is starting to settle down here finally. Of course, there is people kind of taking time out of each other in the timing boards, but there's no moves coming up right now. So everything's settling down. Everyone going into their race strategy mode where they're trying to save their tires, save their fuel. And of course, any of the drivers on the soft, such as Midnight, who's on the screen right now, will of course be trying to save them soft tires. And the medium runners, of course, are going to try to save fuel because the medium runners will have to pit because of fuel, not because of their tires. Whereas it's going to be the opposite story for the soft runners. Of course, you have to run 2 different tire compounds in this race. So those medium runners will have to switch onto the softs at some point or the hards. Either one doesn't matter, but we do know the hards isn't the favorable tire because the grip difference between the hards and the softs compared to the time they last in the race is not really comparable. So many will probably head for the soft tire.
Yeah, I agree with you there. It's kind of, I think during testing and practice, what a lot of drivers found out is that the kind of the time difference between the medium and the softs, it's not a huge kind of deficit between the 2 different compounds around this track. Obviously, not sure if it's kind of down to track characteristics or kind of unique characteristics of this track that we don't see at, say, Brands Hatch or somewhere like that. That the drivers on the softs, they can set, well, actually the drivers on the mediums can set soft tire lap times, which was interesting to see. But obviously, we just know that, say, Midnight with the softs, he's had to come in, a few laps earlier than the drivers on the mediums, but setting quite fast lap times. But the drivers on the mediums kind of setting the same, so there's not a huge difference between the 2 compounders tires here so far.
Yeah, as we wait to see where Midnight files out, I believe will be pretty far back, unfortunately, because of course is the first man to pit off of the track. Up at the front, it's still Kai and Dark Lord in P1 and P2, and looks like Sarah has also pitted for a new set of tires. So that is now 2 pit stoppers so far in this race.
Yeah, as well, to add to the list as well, Ripon Deterian has also pitted. He was one of the ones that started on the softs as well. So, like say, the people that have started on the softs have had to pit 8 laps in. It just goes to show that they're not very forgiving around this track. So, I think we're going to see kind of multiple pit stops around here, which we don't often get to see. Well, it looks like somewhere the Dark Lord has lost a position to McManley. Not obviously missed it, but the 2 eager to fight again. We've got the Dark Lord trying to find a way around McManley, but unfortunately around this section here, it's so hard to kind of get the nose of the car in. But McManley doing a pretty good job. He's managed to worm his way up a few positions on these first few opening laps, and obviously both drivers on the mediums quite similar tyre wear currently, as we see the Dark Lord late move into the inside, which I think did catch Mac out by a little bit of surprise, but the 2 side by side currently still.
Just looking further back, it does look like we've got a bit of a battle on our hands potentially between Max Velocity, Pedro, and Joker. I've just realized over the last few laps, I think Joker actually struggling a bit. And of course, actually, just as I say that, Joker has come into the pits. Yeah, Joker was struggling a small bit, I think, with tire wear in that Ferrari and had to pit because of that. So that obviously deficit probably realized and said, I should come into the pits. And obviously off the medium tires. So that's interesting for the other medium tires. In fact, he is a damage as well. So maybe hitting the wall somewhere. That's probably the reason why he's pitted. Probably the reason why he lost so much time. As we see Pedro now actually potentially making a move here on Max Velocity, catching up to the back of the McLaren driver. And we see another battle on track as well with Stephen and Bertie, with Midnight on them fresh tires following behind.
Yeah, I just joined that battle at the same time as you picked it up as well between Stephen, Bertie, and now Midnight after that pit stop, obviously being on the fresh compound tyres, eager to try and, have a little bit of a battle with the two drivers in front and try and get past them as quickly as he can. As all three drivers go on to the bridge section. Oh, it looked like Stephen nearly hit the wall there, which did lose him a little bit of time to Bertie and Midnight. But free wide going into this corner here, not something you see very often, but over the bridge section, we've still got these three drivers all close to each other, and it's going to be a battle of who's going to brake later as they're going literally side by side over the bridge. Oh, it looks quite close between Midnight and Stephen. Bertie lost out a little bit in that battle there, thinking kind of better of it breaking that a little bit earlier so it wasn't any kind of casualties coming off of the bridge. But yeah, still obviously side by side for Stephen and Midnight. And it looks like Midnight's just about to get ahead, but Stephen's not letting him get past too easy.
Yeah, stellar stuff here. Of course, Midnight on them new tires, trying to make back up them positions as he waits for everybody else to pit. But looks like side by side now with Steven, and is potentially going to get the move done before the corner comes up. But Steven braking late on that outside line. Probably won't end up getting any move done, of course, but was worth a shot anyways. And Steven trying to make that move, trying to keep that position, but unfortunately just nothing coming of it for the Beetle driver.
Yeah, no, obviously, Stephen very brave to break late there, especially obviously going side by side with Midnight. But it looks like the tyre weight of Stephen didn't quite help in that situation. Obviously, the fresh set of rubber that Midnight has. Saying that, Stephen pits now. Must have heard us talking about him. But yeah, Midnight getting past these two and eager to try and get back into that podium kind of fight. But we also see Joker as well. He pitted similar time to Midnight, making his way back up the grid as well. And as we see Stephen coming into the pits, picking up a fresh set of rubber and some more fuel. Currently got Koulios down in 15th with a little bit of damage. Obviously, this track is very kind of easy to pick up damage. There's a lot of barriers and a few bumps on the road that may catch drivers out. As I say that, Koulios dives into the pits to potentially pick up some more fuel and repair that damage.
Yeah. May look like as well there might have been a bit of maybe a penalty served, or maybe just a bit of issues with Max Frosty and Pedro. I said earlier before you panned to Midnight that there was a battle between Pedro and Max Velocity, but it looks like Pedro's dropped very far back from Max. So that's unfortunate. Was looking forward to that battle unfolding as we see Sarah actually catching up to the back of Lee there, going into that corner, but Lee powering through. It looks like Sarah's actually got damage here. So maybe a bit of a collision for the 650S driver. A bit unfortunate. Was going well, but we'll have to pit soon anyways because of the medium tires and because of fuel. So maybe might have just gotten away with that bit of damage if it was in the middle of the stint. Might have been a bit worse, but if they might have to pit this lap anyways, so might have just gotten away with it.
As you see, the podium drivers kind of still very close to each other, keeping each other honest. Any driver willing to make a move up if one of them makes a mistake. But just behind, only a few corners behind, we have Kirk. So Kirk having a really good opening stint. Like I say, kind of resident blue lobby driver and qualified really, really high. So, Kirk and that BMW kind of in tune at the moment, as he seems to be doing really well around here. as we see Lee coming into the pits with only 2% fuel, so cutting it fine indeed, and yeah, picking up some more fuel, probably a fresh set of rubber looking at that tyre wear as well, and a little bit of damage as well, so kind of a full service for that Porsche 911 as that lets Bertie through into P10.
Yeah, we know that Porsche is a quite a killer on tires and fuel. We've seen it before in sprint races, especially. A lot of the cars will end up making it to the end, and then the Porsche is the singular car that somehow runs out of fuel just on the line. We saw that, of course, before. I believe it Force with Handy Point running out of fuel on the line, giving someone else the win. So that was unfortunate, but that Porsche definitely has never been very kind to its fuel tank. But yeah, as we look now on track, looks like there's kind of a bit of a split now. We've got the people who have pitted, people who haven't pitted. So now it's a case of waiting for those people to pit, seeing where they come out, and seeing who's gained positions, who's undercut who, or even overcut in the unlikely case. But I'd say probably going to be a few drivers that will end up undercutting those that haven't pitted. But we are going to see, I'd say, Kai, Dark Lord, and the other drivers that haven't pitted come in fairly soon because the fuel tanks are definitely running low on all the cars. I'd say about one lap more, and then everyone will be coming in. As we see, yes, we do see Dark Lord heading to the pits there with 2% fuel coming off the medium tires.
Yeah, and just behind Dark Lord, we have Mclaren coming in with 4% fuel. So, you know, the P2 and P3 driver cutting it fine, but all perfectly planned, as they say. But obviously, those two eager to try and get out with each other to fight, and well, for a few more laps to come, as that promotes Pedro into P4 and Max Velocity into P3, and Kirk, which I'm sure he'll be very happy about, in P2.
Yeah, so now I believe we have nearly 4 drivers left that haven't pitted. We've got, of course, just the top 4. The top 4 who haven't pitted. So Kai, Kirk, Max Velocity, and Pedro. So once they pit now, I'd say they will be pitting, as I said, within the next lap. Their fuel, unless they manage to make one more stop, I'd say that'll be grand. But it looks like now Midnight trying to battle here with Dark Lord. Of course, Midnight was the one that came out of the pits, was not the one that came out of the pits. He was the one that came out of the pits a long time ago. But Dark Lord is the one coming out of the pits now and not managing to overtake Midnight. So Midnight has done a great undercut there, but will have the older tires. So will Dark Lord be able to take advantage of that?
Yeah, obviously Dark Lord winning the sprint race earlier. He's got that newfound confidence of he knows this track quite well, and he'll be eager to try and get past Midnight, or to try and force Midnight into a mistake as they go side by side onto the bridge section here. But yeah, going back to what you say, obviously Midnight executing that undercut, but we'll obviously have the kind of slightly old tyres on, but they're obviously not too much tyre wear at the moment. But Dark Lord manages to get in front. It's kind of that speed of the 650S. Obviously it's great when you want it to be, but sometimes when you just need that little bit more power, it kind of lacks just that little bit compared to the BMW.
Yeah, definitely. We saw BMW domination in Blue Lobby earlier. We saw Kirk and Piper in the P1 and P2 positions. So the M6 definitely looked like a good contender all day. As we see now, Kai heading into the pits, 2% fuel, just like a few of the podium drivers, and coming off of the medium tires as well. Kirk following him, and I assume Max Velocity and Pedro will follow him in this lap or the next potentially. So looks like now everything should finally be in its final order. We're not going to have to predict in our head who's coming out, as we see Max Velocity coming in on 0% fuel. So cutting that one close, that 650S, really cutting it fine.
Yeah, and talking about strategies, I was kind of looking on Joker. Obviously pitted the same sort of time as Midnight, but Joker going for the soft set of tyres. You can kind of see between the two drivers, obviously they are quite close to each other, but the tyre wear of the Ferrari is a lot worse than that McLaren. So obviously Joker's going to have to come in again and probably a few laps sooner than the likes of Midnight and the Dark Lord, but obviously it promotes him into P3 as KD the Kai coming out. Mac picking up a 1 second penalty behind him, but obviously the P1 and P2 driver close to each other after their pit stops.
Everything settling down now after the pit cycle. So there's been a few positions kind of swapped around because of people stopping earlier. Of course, we've seen Midnight stop earlier and managed to get up in a P2. So a good, nice game from, of course, starting on them soft tires, as we mentioned, and doing very well on that stint, and now doing very well on this stint so far. But will be pitting once again earlier than everyone else because he's going to have that limited fuel to run. But we do see, actually, there is currently one battle I'm looking at right now. Looks like Kirk and Max Velocity. Kirk has been catching up to the rear of Max Velocity for pretty much the last lap or two, because of the fact Max just came out of the pits. But this may be a potential move for the M6 driver to get up another position pretty soon enough.
Yeah, and obviously going back to Kirk, he's just come in for his pit stop. So obviously he's looking at the fuel tank. Obviously that McLaren driver of Max Rossi only deciding to pick half a tank up. So showing his intentions that he's going to have to come in. Obviously very sooner than Kirk. So Kirk's got a good advantage here. If he can try and get in front of Max Velocity, he can kind of make his strategy work, and he won't kind of have to worry about Max Velocity in a few laps to come. But yeah, I'm very impressed with Kirk so far. He's doing a pretty good job, and like you say, it's kind of BMW domination at the moment. But obviously, going back to kind of KD Lakai's pit stop strategy, he hasn't changed compound of tyre yet. So he's gone from medium to another set of mediums. So potentially we're on for a two-stop strategy for KD Lakai, as opposed to Joker obviously going on the softs with only 14 laps in. So it's interesting to see. I think there's going to be kind of maybe potentially 3 to 4 pit stops for some of the drivers going for that more aggressive strategy, as we see KD Lakai running slightly wide coming out of the first corner.
Yeah, we'll have to see as well who may get caught out by these new tire wear physics, of course. As we mentioned in the previous race, once that tire gets to red, it feels like you're driving on a flat. We saw it with Lee in the Blue Lobby sprint race. I'm sure we'll probably see it in this endurance race as people try to push their tires as far as they can go. But as of right now, no current battles on the track that I can see. Not sure if you've your eye on anything, Sarah?
No, was just obviously looking at Stephen. He picked up himself a half-second penalty. I was just trying to figure out. We've had a disconnect from, I believe, Lee in that Porsche 911. So potentially something, an accident or a disconnect. Which again, not like to see drivers having technical difficulties. But just behind, we have Bertie coming in. He looks like he's only recently just come in for a pit stop. So I don't know if that's a strategic fix that front bumper and then get out as quick as he can, because he's obviously got 91% fuel and quite recent tyres. So I think repairing that damage and getting out as soon as he can. But yeah, like you say, kind of the drivers of at that stage of the race, obviously we're nearly halfway in. Everyone's kind of in a little bit of a gap of their own, settling into the race. So yeah, no battles that I've got my eye on so far. What about yourself?
Well, I said that to you, and then I realized actually Joker and Kai were actually going at it on the straight, on the bridge, and it looks like now Joker falling down to P5, getting overtaken by 2 drivers in that last lap. So yeah, I mean, I jinxed myself. Said there was no battles, and then Kai and Joker going at it on the bridge. But yeah, Kai clean overtake on the bridge, just way better exit. Joker's really struggling on them soft tires. That Ferrari is just brutal on the tires, and we see actually coming to the pits right now is Joker coming off them soft tires, of course, on a bit of a strange strategy, pitted very, very early. That's what put him high up in the order for now, but will drop back down because of this pit stop.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. Obviously, the past kind of previous rounds, we've seen Joker actually go for the hard compound tyres. So just goes to show, like you say, I 100% agreeing with you, that Ferrari is brutal on its tyres. It just kind of chews through them.
Yeah, Joker is becoming Midnight 2.0 with these elaborate strategies that we seem to see every race. But yes, right now, settling down once again. I'm going to say settling down, and there's going to be a move pop up out of absolutely nowhere. But I'm going to say it. Dark Lord leading the race with a very healthy gap to Midnight behind. So right now, it's an M6 and a 650S in P1 and P2, which we have pretty much seen dominate the whole day. However, as I say that, there may be a change of position. Kai is catching up to the back of Midnight now. You can see heading through that left-hander after the bridge. Kai looking towards that inside line. But I do realize that the 650S is quite struggles quite a lot in that corner for speed. So we have to see if Kai can get a better exit. It looks like pretty much matched exits coming out of that corner, but Kai will have a massive amount of slipstream and a lot of time down this straight. He will have potentially the inside or outside line. Right now on the outside, that's going to be hard to make that work. We have to see, can Kai manage it on the outside? He just breaks later and manages to get that move done. Brilliant stuff from the Corvette driver, and that's going to be P2 for Kai.
Yeah, what a move there. Obviously, drivers often going for the inside line. Katie Kai going brave and going for that outside line and kind of sticking his foot all the way down on that throttle, make sure to get past Midnight as quick as you can. And obviously, Midnight trying to defend that line, but on this occasion, it was unfortunate for Midnight to lose a position. But obviously, comparing the two tyre wears of the Corvette and the McLaren, like you say, the McLaren struggles a little bit on top end speed, and especially with kind of half worn tyres. It's going to get into that kind of graining stage of Midnight, trying his best to keep up with KJ the Kai, but will have to come into pit shortly. Yeah, going back to your earlier point, I just jumped on board with Rip and Deter, and I've got to say that Ford GT is a beauty to look at. Like you say, it's just catches your eye every time it goes around the track, especially in a night race. It's the one car that you want to keep your eye on because of how how good it looks.
Reminds me of the scene from the Cars movie with all the I don't remember what the name of them are called, but they're you know the scene I'm on about, the one where
Yeah.
they're all jacked out with their underglow and everything like that. It reminds me of that. It reminds me a lot of that. No, it's very rare you see GR3 cars have anything glowing except the brake lights and the headlights. But it's nice. It's nice to see. If only we could add our own underglow in Gran Turismo 7, that would be very cool. But yeah, looks like right now, I think right now is a game of strategies. Everybody is managing their own race. They're managing tires, fuel, and like there's going to be a few moves crop up because people are just on completely different strategies. We've seen people pit on lap 10. We've seen people pit on lap 6. For example, Joker pitted very, very early. We've seen loads of different strategies. So it's a case of now people are going to make overtakes that at the time will seem substantial. And then we realize, hang on, that was just newer tires are part of the strategy and all this. So it's going to be interesting to see just at the end of the race how everything's going to line up, because I will be honest, I have a feeling this order will not be the same as it is right now towards the end of the race because of those differing strategies.
Yeah, like you say, it's kind of just that point in the race where it's too early to call where everyone's going to finish, because we've still got 1 to 2, maybe even 3 more pit stops to come for some of the drivers, especially kind of the drivers that have opted for that kind of more aggressive soft pit stop strategy, because the tyre wear around here, it's not very friendly. So the likes of kind of Joker, like you say, they're going to have to pit multiple times. So it's going to be kind of that we might have to wait until a little bit more into the race to kind of see where everyone solidifies their position. But it looks like we have a little bit of a battle between Kirk in the BMW and Pedro in that Mercedes. Obviously, it looks like Pedro on the softs, they're struggling a little bit with the soft tyres here, where Kirk has pitted recently. He's on the medium compounder tyre, so he's got that little bit more grip compared to Pedro. So potentially in a few corners' time, we could have a little bit more of a closer battle between the two.
I have to say, I applaud the drivers currently for the level of racing that has been going on, not only in this race, but the blue lobby and red lobby sprint race right now, because I can tell you one thing, this track is difficult. Like, all the times I've raced here in the past, it's been, like, me and Midnight mentioned already, the undulation is something else. Like, there's so many bumps, so many chances for the car to get unsettled. And there's times where you have a massive swapper and you don't know if you're going to be able to save it, and sometimes it just works out. One thing I want to say, looks like Kirk is going for that move down the inside on Pedro, heading into the right-hander just before the straight, and it looks like they're going to be side by side now, except they're not, because Kirk just managing to break later into that corner and get ahead of Pedro, but Pedro will have slipstream down the straight.
Yeah, very close between the two in a section that you don't go for the move very often. As we see a move with Midnight potentially kind of forcing Mac off the track a little bit there. Looks like he broke a little bit later than what he should have, but lets Mac back through. But obviously a few corners before, they were on the bridge and it looked like they were going side by side, and Mac just being able to get in front of Midnight here. But yeah, obviously the balance has been restored, as we say, and like you say, going back to Kirk, he's very brave to go for that move there, but I think the grip on the BMW is just a little bit stronger than the Mercedes currently. Obviously, Pedro looking like he's going for that more aggressive strategy, which, hopefully towards the end of the race, it might help him out a little bit. But obviously, being championship leader at the moment, you're kind of thinking about your closest competitors being kind of P1, P2. So I'm sure that'll be in the back of Pedro's mind currently.
Ripping to Terran, entering the pits now off 12% fuel. And as we'd say in Irish, Midnight just said, Shole, send it. But yeah, ripping to Terran, into the pits now off the medium tyres. Bit of out of cycle. Wouldn't expect pit stop right now. Maybe for damage. Not sure if there is damage on his car. But now everyone is up to their own race. We will see that pretty often. We'll see drivers coming in for pit stops earlier than we expect them because they pitted like 10 laps earlier in the race. But it's a learning curve. This track throws up a lot of things, as I said, the undulation already, that it's very difficult, but also just because the tire is so bad, people have so many options for strategies to take. And now Kai will be, of course, one of those people trying to take advantage of the strategy and chase down Dark Lord, who you can see now. You couldn't see Dark Lord originally, but you can see him now up there in front. You would go on board with Kai right now and probably see Dark Lord there in the distance, heading out of the exits of the corners. And it does look like, actually, something to mention, Dark Lord's front left is on red now. So that's going to let Kai catch up even quicker as Sarah comes into the pits as well, off of her old tyres onto some fresh softs with about, I'd say, 75% fuel. So now Sarah will be chasing down Koulios, who just went by when she was coming out of the pits. But it does look like here, Dark Lord will be entering the pits. So this move may not matter anyways, but Kai is going to try around the outside here on the M6 driver. As they head into that final corner, Dark Lord on the outside as there's a bit of a switchback, but Dark Lord dives into the pits now, and he's going to come off of them soft tires. That front left is looking a bit brutal, but Kai now inherits the race lead.
Yeah, that front left looks like it's seen better days. So interested to see what tyre the Dark Lord will come out on. But that promotes obviously Katie the Kai back into P1, and Mac, Mac who drifts around that first corner there, and that looks like he's about to lose a position to the two Mercedes drivers and potentially Kirk as he makes his way through. But going back to the Dark Lord, picking up some more fuel, and I'm wondering if he's going to go on another set of softs or he's going to go on a slightly harder compounded tyre, but waiting to see what he comes out on currently. But yeah, just having a quick flick through the drivers. Obviously, the two McLaren drivers of Midnight and Max Velocity. Midnight will have to come into pit soon. That fuel is near the end of the barrel, and those medium tyres looks like they've seen better days. And same with Max Velocity, so it could be quite tight at the end of the race between the two McLaren drivers here.
Yeah, it's really the battle between the 650Ss and the M6. I mean, they're so good on their tires of this track, better than the rest of the manufacturers, and they're up in them points paying positions right now.
Yeah, and talking about a battle of car manufacturers, we've also got the two Mercedes of Pedro and McManley having a little battle coming off of the bridge section there. It did look like McManley got that move done pretty early on, and with better tyre wear as well. Pedro struggling a little bit, but obviously going back up to Kirk as well. I think Kirk will be smiling ear to ear here with a P4 currently. But going back to Dark Lord, he came out on the hard compound of tyres. So obviously, like you said earlier, going for that tyre that we don't see very often because of its kind of performance. So I'm intrigued to see how the Dark Lord gets on with the hard compound of tyres.
Yeah, the hards have had a bit of a spotted history. As they said, many don't run them, but in the new physics, they seem a bit better. We'll have to see. Dark Lord will be our little test dummy. He can figure out for us at his own pain whether the hards work or not. Please tell me, Dark Lord, if they worked out. Anyways, Midnight and Max Velocity, the two McLaren drivers, heading into the pits now. One on mediums, one on soft, and they're both on the same fuel. So this is going to be interesting now, as Midnight, of course, was one of them earlier stoppers, getting the undercut on many drivers, actually, getting the undercut on Dark Lord, for example, before getting overtaken later on down the road. But now as well, we see Pedro as well coming into the pits. So 3 drivers who are in contention for a podium today, I'd say, coming into the pits there. So it's going to be interesting to watch what they do. We just see now Koulias circling on the track. We gotta give everyone else. It's been a tough race for some of the drivers so far, and I'll say Koulias definitely having a bit of a tough race because of the damage they got earlier on. So unfortunate for them, but of course these races sometimes just play out like that, and you just got to push through it. Of course, we know it's difficult, but sometimes these races are the ones where you learn the most. When there's tough situations like this, you get to know the track. Even sometimes I've found when you have a bit of a crash and you're at the back, gives you time to actually run clean laps without any disturbance from having to overtake cars or cars overtaking you. So it's always a learning experience no matter what position you're in. As we see, one thing I want to point out actually, Sophie in P4 right now in the Ferrari 458, doing an exceptional job right now. 25% fuel, still got a few laps to run. Doing pretty well, I'd say, ahead of Dark Lord, who just pitted. And even just catching the podium runners as well, I'd say, and going to lap Steven here in a second. Doing pretty well.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you there. Obviously, we haven't mentioned kind of the likes of Sophie and Bertie too much. They've kind of been doing their thing, making up a few positions here and there, which is always the best way to do it. Making a few positions up in strategic calls, but also just running their own race and having a good race at that. Obviously, like you say, Sophie doing a remarkable job so far in that Ferrari, which we all know is very difficult on its tyre wear and its fuel. So obviously to be up into P4, she looks like she's about to lap Steven as well. So the pace of Sophie in that Ferrari has been quite good. But obviously a few corners behind we do have the Dark Lord, who'll be looking to try and get back into that kind of podium position spot. But Kirk in P2 currently, he's having to hold the likes of McManley off for a little bit for a few corners. But Katie the Kai, obviously on the bridge section, he's got a little bit of breathing room here, which I'm sure I'll be happy about.
Absolutely. I'm sure the drivers who pitted just there, of course, as I said, there's going to be another stage of undercuts where we're going to see drivers who pitted 2 or 3 laps ago undercut the drivers who are currently staying out, such as Kai and Kirk and Sophie and all of them. But I mean, this is the part of the race where we are chilling. We are chilling, as I'd say it, because we've got lovely cars with lovely liveries driving around the track. Not much overtakes going on, but that's okay because we've got cool cars running on the track.
I couldn't agree more, and I don't know about you, but the cars look 100 times better in a night race.
Definitely. I love just seeing. I mean, I've mentioned him like I think the only time I've mentioned Rip the Terran so far this race is talking about the nice glow on his car. But let's look at Rip the Terran. Let's see what Rip the Terran's up to. I want to see. Let's have a look at him. He's in P10 right now. Of course, in the 40G, actually has damage. There we go. That's my reason. There's Rip the Terran's got damage somehow. Of course, pitted recently, as you can see, on 70% fuel. So that's a bit unfortunate, and probably gonna have to circulate out there with damage now. So that's gonna lose him a good bit of time. So hopefully, maybe he got it this lap. He might be pitting this lap for it, but that's unfortunate for the 4GT driver. I hope he doesn't keep circulating out there because that will bleed a lot of time, especially on a track like this. We seem to find that the damage ends up affecting the straight line speed and the cornering. So that's like pretty much every single aspect of the track. So it's a bit unfortunate. See Kai kicking up a bit of dust there. We've seen a few drivers kicking the dust up. It's very much curb and then grass to this track. So very easy to dip a wheel in and blind your trailing opponent.
Yeah, Katie the car using those tactics that we often see in kind of F1, hitting a little bit of dirt, trying to, distract the competitors behind him. But talking about kind of strategies, I think at this point in the race, we're either yet to see, the people's final pit stops, or with the likes of Katie the car, he's not changed compound tyres yet, and obviously the pace that he's doing on those quite worn mediums is remarkable. So I'm kind of scared to see his pace on the softs, but we'll probably see that in a few laps time. But I think a few drivers got a few pit stops left, but everyone else, I think they're kind of gearing up for their final stint. As it looks like McManley and Sophie were going to have to come in at the end of this lap. So, yeah, obviously this will be kind of going into the final stint, and where we'll kind of see or be able to try and predict the final order.
Yeah. I mean, another thing we forgot to mention about the night racing, which I realized as soon as you mentioned it, was actually the exhaust fire as well. Is pretty nice to see, especially on Kai's car. I think the backfire spanned like the width of like 5 white lines. It was crazy. That was a massive backfire. But yeah, it looks like now we are going to see some runners pitting this lap. Of course, here's our second out of like 5 batches of pit stoppers that are all on alternating strategies.
Yeah, and it looks like Mac is going to be the first of that final batch of pit stoppers as he comes in, currently in P3. Either perfectly planned and not cutting it very fine with 0% fuel, but obviously only got 9 laps to go. So, potentially all 9 laps is on that bubble of kind of is soft tyres going to last, but I'm sure Mac is going to give it a go. We all know how fast he is. But also coming in just behind, we have Sophie in that Ferrari. Will that see the Dark Claw be promoted back into the podium spot? Yes, it is, and it looks like just in front we've seen Koulios come out of the pits as well. So, like you say, everyone gearing up for their final batch of pit stops and into the final stint of the race.
Yeah, so order been restored slightly to the podium spots. Of course, Kirk still hasn't pitted. On 20% fuel, so we'll be out there for I'd say about 2 or 3 more laps. So the question is now, of course, those runners that came out, such as Sophie, will they be able to undercut people like Kirk to, of course, gain that position and hopefully stay ahead for them? Look at that backfire of that 650S of Midnights. That's absolutely beautiful. And circulating out on track there on the medium tires, pitted earlier, of course. Don't think they'll have to make another pit stop. There is, of course, 8 laps left. Probably will get to 8 laps on the fuel they have currently.
Yeah, and it looks like McManley obviously pitted just a lap ago, well, at the end of the previous lap, sorry. He's gone for the soft set of tyres, and that's brought him out just behind Midnight, who obviously you were commentating with the the beautiful backfire. But will that backfire be able to keep McManley behind? I don't think so. I think in the next few laps, next few corners actually, not even next few laps, I think we're going to see Mac on that soft compounder tyre go for a move on Midnight. But obviously looking just behind, in front actually, not behind, we've got Joker also on the mediums, obviously half worn, so he's got the threat of Midnight and McManley just behind him on fresher tyres.
Yeah. Just looking towards the front, just to give you a rundown of our order right now. It is Kai in first position, Kirk in second, who's still yet to pit, Dark Lord third, Joker fourth, who's still yet to pit as well, as you mentioned, who's currently getting caught up to by Midnight, and then Midnight himself in P5.
Yeah, and just to carry on, currently we've got Mac P6, but that could change within the next few corners. We'll keep an eye on this battle here. But as it stands, actually no, I might have to wait a corner. We've kind of alternating with Midnight for that P5 spot is McManley, but I'm just gonna joint P5 at the moment for those two while I have a look at everyone else. We've got Max Velocity in P7. Just behind we have Pedro in P8. Sophie obviously with that recent pit stop in P9. Rip and Deter in P10. Just behind we have the likes of kind of Bertie, Koulios, and Stephen all doing really well. But going obviously back up to that battle with Midnight and McManley, still side by side. Obviously, the two drivers having quite close battle all race long, but here's where it's really going to matter. It's going to help solidify that final kind of position. But very brave to go side by side through this kind of S's section onto the bridge. Kind of it looks like Mac went into the inside, which caught Midnight by surprise. Midnight going for the optimal racing line, but McManley thinking better of it and going for that move. And looks like Mac is on the hunt for Joker now, and Midnight being demoted down to P6.
So the question for the runners, the soft runners towards the end of this race will the tires last? Of course, it's all well and good if the tires still have a bit of life in them, but as soon as you get to the red territory, that's where things start falling apart. As I mentioned, tires wearing. Kai is coming off of his worn tires, off 4% fuel as well, off them mediums and switching onto a different compound. Of course, Kai has not run the soft tires yet in this race, so it will be the softs for them. However, he is pitting about 2 or 3 laps after our previous set of soft pit stops. So we'll have to see if there's any disparity there towards the end of the race. But that does mean Kirk will inherit the lead. Up there in front, has not made a pit stop yet, of course. So our net race lead right now is still Kai as he heads out of the pit lane ahead of Dark Lord. We'll have to see if that changes towards the end of the race. We know Dark Lord had the pace earlier in that M6. Will he be able to catch the Corvette driver by the end of the race? It looks like Joker has been overtaken down into P5, but it looks like Midnight now may be able to spring an opportunity. No, Joker says, you can have that position, bud. I'm going into the pits. So Joker coming off the mediums. Pretty good amount of fuel, so that will shorten Joker's pit stop time. 20% fuel there. So that would be good for him. May get a few positions because of that. Won't lose as many positions. So that leaves Midnight now circulating out on track in P5. But Max Velocity following pretty close behind. About 2 or 3 seconds, I'd say, as they head into that corner. Maybe something to watch for later in the race. The 650S drivers once again chained on track as Koulias looks like he's had a bit of an issue there. You can see the yellow flag warning popping up on the screen briefly. And that looks like Dark Lord will be lapping Koulias. As we look down the grid, it looks like no battles as of right now, but I'm sure as the difference in tires settles in, we will have more battles. But as I say that, Sarah is coming into the pits off the soft tires, so that will potentially be another set of softs or mediums, I believe. I'm not sure what Sarah started on, but I'm sure we'll find out what she goes on to soon enough. So Sarah starting on them medium tires. I changed my mind. I remembered what the tires were. It was medium tires. And then was on the softs there. So most likely another set of softs. I'd be very surprised if she goes on to a different set of tires. But as we see now, it looks like pretty good chain on the track here. We've got P5, P6, and P7. Midnight, Max, Pedro. About 3 to 4 seconds respectively between the drivers. But I'd say could definitely close down if any one of them makes a mistake. And we see Kirk into the pit lane now. 0% fuel, cutting it close like many drivers have been doing it today off the mediums. Let's see. They probably go on the soft, I'd say.
He's a lot braver than me. Kind of, that fine on 0% fuel. But Kirk is going to be fast in this final stint. Obviously, it's not going to lose him too much time here. And he could be on for a podium spot, which obviously I think he'll be very happy about. But we've got a little bit of a battle between Pedro and Max Velocity brewing. It looks like the pace of Pedro on that mediums compared to that 650S is just a little bit stronger. So I think in the next lap or so we're going to see those drivers be a little bit close to each other. But yeah, Kirk overcut literally. Well, I'm not going to say everyone, but quite a few drivers there. So I think Kirk, either strategic mastermind or had the best luck of them all. But yeah, P3 for Kirk. I can't say that I expected that, obviously, going into the race, but to hold it, especially with the likes of, Midnight, McManley just behind him, that's a pretty good showing from Kirk there.
Absolutely. I mean, he's been rapid in that M6 all day. Of course, picking up P1 in the Blue Lobby Sprint and just showing to the other drivers, especially because this is the Purple Lobby, it's a mix between both lobbies, just showing, hey, even with a mix of everyone in here, I can still perform to the highest standard. So brilliant performance from Kirk here so far. Out on a fresh set of softs. We'll be definitely trying to catch up to Dark Lord and Kai. Of course, I know the gap is a bit big right now, but I'd say over the next 5 laps could definitely maybe go for fastest lap. Potentially Dark Lord or Kai, anyone makes a small mistake will definitely catch up to the two of them and potentially move up in the podium position. Even if not, P3 is brilliant performance here today.
Yeah, I got to agree with you there. Yeah, just having a quick kind of look along the grid, we've got a little bit of like I say, that battle between Pedro and Max Velocity, but having just a further look down, everyone else is kind of, on their own little bit of the track and driving their own race. As I say that, Stephen with a 3-second penalty, so potentially either a pit entry or a pit exit penalty there, unfortunately. But yeah, obviously it's not an easy track, especially in that Beetle. So Stephen, obviously, to still be running is pretty good. But going back up to the likes of Kirk and the Dark Lord. Obviously, Dark Lord on the hard tyres. I wonder if Kirk, is he going to have enough time to catch the Dark Lord here, or will he have to be happy with a P3?
I mean, it depends. Of course, Kirk is just exiting turn 1 now, and I believe Dark Lord heading into the left-hander pretty soon enough. But, I mean, there is, of course, Dark Lord's on the hards, Kirk is on the softs. There's a pretty big pace difference. We know there's not much between the soft and the medium, but the hards are a different story. The hards are a lot more slippier than the mediums are, and it'll bleed a lot more time because of it. It's gonna be a battle between the M6s. Once again, we got a battle between the two BMWs heading into this final stage of the race, just like we saw in the Blue Lobby Sprint. But apart from that, Kai up front, leading the way, pretty nice gap. I'd say if he doesn't make any mistakes, his lead is pretty much set in stone. But we'll have to see. But of course, it's a commentator's curse. Can't call it too early. But I have to say, Kai has looked very strong all day. He's been just pumping out lap times in that Corvette, and they've been solid lap times as well. And even just strategy has been pretty good today. I'd say Kai can pat himself on the back for this performance as well.
Yeah, and obviously with that fastest lap time of a 2 minutes 7.520 as well, that's made me speechless. That's kind of just shows his real pace in that Corvette, which it is a difficult car, obviously, on tyres and fuel, but he's made it work around here. On some of the other tracks, we've seen kind of Katie the Kai pit multiple times, but for this race, it's kind of suited the Corvette pretty well, and it just goes to show in his lap times as well. So, like you say, hopefully we don't curse Katie the Kai. We don't want to kind of commentate curse going into the final few laps, but obviously, we've still got that battle between Pedro and Max Velocity still brewing. But obviously, Magally on the soft tyre here, they do look pretty worn. So I think it's obviously going to be hard to catch the likes of Kirk. And it's kind of Midnight's probably got his eyes set on McManley at the moment. But obviously, just behind this battle here, we have Kirk still in P3. I mean, the Dark Claw's not too far away for Kirk to catch, but it's going to be difficult. Obviously, we're going into the kind of the last 3 laps. Kirk's going to either have to, be brave with some of it. Oh, as I say that, maybe a little bit too much throttle coming out of that corner there, which nearly resulted in a spin, but a nice little drift from Kirk there. He's going to have to be careful if he wants to try and catch the Dark Lord. He's going to have to try and minimise that. But yeah, obviously going back, KD the Kai's fastest lap is faster than the pole position time, so he's found pace from somewhere.
Yeah, of course, as well. Another factor is night race. Of course, I think qualifying was also at night time, but also another factor is the wind. The wind is currently a headwind heading down the long straight, and it seems when there's a headwind, don't ask me why. Gran Turismo 7 is a magic black box, and I don't know how it works. But usually when there's a headwind, the cars can actually reach a higher engine speed down that straight. Potentially. Sometimes. It depends. But sometimes they actually will reach a higher top speed when they're going into a headwind. Don't ask me why. Polyphony, you don't have to explain yourself. I give up at this point. But as we see here, actually, I believe this is a battle for position between Bertie and Koulias. I think it may be.
I think it may be, but just behind, obviously, we've got Kirk with the blue flag conditions, so it might kind of halt their Bertie's progress here. But I think, Bertie's done a remarkable job to keep in touch with Koulios here. Obviously, that Subaru is one of those cars that if you're comfortable with it, it's quite good, and obviously through some tracks it is quite difficult, but it seems to be all right here. I don't think it's Koulios's preferred track, shall we say. But it looks like Bertie's moving out of the way of Kirk, which, like I say, Koulios is still going for it. So that does drop Bertie, unfortunately, a little bit too further back from Koulios, so he'll have to try again in the next few laps.
Yeah, it's quite an elaborate game, especially getting past under blue flags is picking and choosing where you want to let the car that's upcoming pass. Try to lose as little time as possible, but try not to block them at the same time. It's quite a hard art to master. So it's pick and choose sometimes can be difficult.
Yeah, exactly. You pick and choose your battles, but obviously make sure not to try and get in the way of, say, the lead lap drivers. But talking about one of the lead lap drivers in McManley, that front left tyre is on the canvas. So obviously we've got 2 laps to go. Is Mac going to come and pit, or is he going to try his best to get that Mercedes with that tyres to the end? We shall see. But I don't know about you. Obviously, we're near the end of the race now. But obviously, I've got a lot of respect for both of the lobbies, well, the blue and the red lobby joining together, and for the majority of it, it's been a clean drive-in and some battles all the way across the grid.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there'll be a few people in this lobby. Of course, I know between the blue and red, people move up and down sometimes, but between the two lobbies, there will be definitely drivers that haven't raced against other drivers before that would have been in the other lobbies. So it's going to be like a interesting experience for them to be like interacting with these drivers and seeing how they race and learning from them. So it's good. It's a good experience for everybody involved. Definitely. Hope to see it again in the future. But obviously, we love to have many drivers racing in the blue and red lobbies, but sometimes we have to merge them.
Yeah, and obviously, just as it's shown tonight, it provides us with some great racing action as well. And talking about racing action, just perfectly kind of into that section there, we have Midnight and Mac. Oh, Midnight going for a move on the outside, so kept his foot on that throttle. Obviously, didn't shy away from going on the outside round that corner. But it does look like obviously the tyre wear of Max Mercedes is going to make it quite difficult to hold back the likes of Max Velocity and Pedro, who are storming through currently, but Midnight up to P4. Potentially, pass of the season is quite brave, but I think obviously we'll have to have a look at that. But yeah, I think it's going to be obviously going into the penultimate lap. It's going to be tight between these kind of 4 drivers of Midnight, Max Velocity, and Pedro. As we see a yellow flag. Going on to the bridge section. Oh! A collision between Max Velocity and McManley, which does send Mac into the barrier and does pick up some damage, which obviously you don't want to see on the penultimate lap. I think that will definitely be one for the stewards to look at afterwards. But it just looked like Max Velocity there got caught a little bit out by the bump in the track. And like you say, the undulations of this track, when you bring a little bit too much speed or you don't brake enough into some of the corners, it does catch you out. And it does look like obviously that collision with Mac nearly sent Pedro as well into the barrier. So I think Pedro will be quite happy that he didn't catch Mac there, but very close. And obviously Pedro lives to fight another day.
Yeah, and Pedro and Max are currently going side by side now as they head into the right-hander. Max on the inside brakes late, manages to stop the car. That was really very risky there heading into the gravel, but he managed to get it done. Pedro getting a snap of oversteer on corner exit, but managing to keep a hold of it as they head now into the S's section through this left-hander. It seems it's been very difficult to follow through the S's section there. If you don't get that move done, it's a rough one. the dirty air can definitely catch up a few drivers as they head now. You see Koulias pulling over to the right-hand side and heading to the pit lane, I believe.
Yeah,
Maybe
quite an
trying to go
interesting
for
call.
fastest lap, potentially. Except it is the final lap, so no, I don't think that is what it is. Maybe just putting on a new set of tires, just have a bit of fun on the final lap. Why not? Go on, Koulias. But, Pedro heads into the grass there now, off the track. So that's going to lose him a bit of time to max velocity. It's a bit unfortunate. But we'll see. Will Pedro be able to gain the time on the straight? That's the question in hand here. The Mercedes versus the 650S.
Oh, and just obviously going to another battle as well, the battle of the BMW M6s, as we called it earlier. Kirk can just about see the Dark Lord in his line of vision, but I'm not sure if it's going to be enough of a lap to be able to catch the Dark Lord. It always goes back to that thing. I think if Kirk thought, oh, the race was, I don't know, 2 or 3 laps longer, he would have potentially either been on the bumper of the Dark Lord or would have overtaken him. So it's just that I think it's a little bit out of reach for Kirk to catch the Dark Lord here. But obviously, the pace of the Dark Lord on those hard tyres is nothing to frown about. He's set lap times, which puts himself kind of matched with the medium drivers. So the Dark Lord managing to hold that position, and Kirk, like I say, should be very happy with a P3 and a very close to P2. It's something you should be proud of.
I'm going to be honest. Dark Lord is running low on that fuel meter. He's going to be posting it through that final corner. If he's not, he might lose the position to Kirk, but it looks like he might just manage it. You can see I can't even see the red nearly on that. There's I'd say probably 0. I think there's 0 in it now heading across the line. So he just got away with that. Perfectly timed. But sorry, Kai wins the race here at St. Croix, the feature race by the Corvette driver. Then it's Dark Lord in second, followed by Kirk in P3. Rounds off your podium positions. Midnight doing a stellar job, coming home in 4th position with max velocity coming behind him in the 650S, 2 650Ss in 4th and 5th. Then Pedro in the Mercedes in 6th position.
Yep, and then just behind we have McManley going through that final few corners and looking like he's going to take a P7, obviously carrying that damage, and obviously, like I say, an incident to look at afterwards. But obviously, McManley with a few dead tyres, shall we say. I think he's going to cross the line with one semi-alright tyre, so good job from Mac there. And then just behind we have Joker in P8. With Sophie quite close, but I don't think it's going to be enough to be able to pass Joker here. But we have a Joker in P8, followed very, very, very closely by Sophie as well in that Ferrari. And Ripon Terran only a few seconds away in that 4GT, which looks lovely. I don't know how many times me and Mac have said it, but it's a livery and a car that we're a huge fan of. And then over to you, Mac.
Then it is, of course, Sarah coming home in P11, running low on fuel as well, and those tires not as brutal as some of the other drivers, but bringing it home on the softs. We said the softs were going to be getting pretty close to the wire towards this end of the race, but looks like just a bit of life left in them. Birdie coming home in 12th in the V12 Vantage, with Koulias 13th and Steven in 14th. That rounds out the finishing order. 14 drivers. Thank you.
Yeah, and obviously just to be something that I must have missed going into that final lap, that obviously we saw Koulias also pit on the penultimate lap, but Joker as well pitted on the penultimate lap. And obviously I'm not sure if his pit stop strategy caught him out a little bit. Obviously the fuel or the tyre wear maybe was just that little bit low, and he didn't want to risk it. But yeah, obviously kind of unique decisions by a few of the drivers to pit on that penultimate lap. But all in all, what did you think of the race, Mac?
I think it was a pretty good race. It was nice seeing all the drivers in one lobby. Some familiar names from red and blue in that lobby. And, it was interesting strategies. I've always said this track is one that's good for overtaking because of the long straights and the variety of corners. But we didn't see too much slipstreaming in the feature race that we did in the sprint race. But there was still some very, very good overtakes in this feature race. I do think that the alternating strategies definitely affected the outcome of the race. I think if there were more similar strategies, there was a lot of different strategies. And I think if there was more similar strategies, we may have seen a few closer gaps towards the end of the race. But that's just how some tracks play out sometime, and how some, of course, different manufacturers as well. Some cars have worse tire, fuels, everything, worse handling, worse car than others. So, I mean, that definitely affected the outcome of the race today, but I think it was overall very good.
I've got to agree with you there. Obviously, it's not a track which a lot of drivers find easy to drive. Obviously, like we alluded to earlier, with kind of the changes in the track, there's a few bumps obviously that we saw a few drivers get caught out on. But obviously, from P1 to P11 finishing on the lead lap just goes to show how, you know, close the drivers were today. Although they were kind of in their own little battles at time, it was like you say, a pretty good race. And obviously, I'm not going to say, well, I am going to say again, we are a fan of the night races, so it just kind of added to that kind of that entertainment, and, you know, made our job a lot easier. But yeah, obviously going into a little bit more in depth, the strategies called for, like you say, for some of the drivers were definitely unique, as I shall say, but some of them playing out into, obviously, maybe a little bit unexpected for a few drivers, but for the likes of kind of Midnight, obviously going for that aggressive kind of pit stop strategy, pitting, I think it was 2 or 3 times with a P4. I'm sure I'll be very happy about that. But I've got to say, I don't know about you, thinking about driver of the day, it's going to be a tough one to call. So I'm going to let you decide first, and then I'll use that time to think about who I'm going to vote for.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not going to give you much time, because I already decided about halfway into the race who my driver of the day is. And I'll be honest, look, I'd love, you know, we always love to give it to the person who won the race, because, of course, the person who won the race was obviously the one to cross the line first. But at the same time, I have to say, one who won the sprint race as well, Kirk has done an absolutely exceptional job for pretty much the feature and the sprint race, won the blue lobby sprint race, and then came into the purple lobby with loads of red lobby drivers and managed to pretty much beat, I think, about like 4 or 5 of them. So, I mean, to just, that is a statement to say, you know, hello, I'm here, and I can perform, especially under unfamiliar conditions, with drivers that he might not have raced that much with before. So I think it's been a brilliant performance from Kirk today, and I think he's my driver today, to be honest.
Do you know what? I'm going to fully agree with you. I think, obviously, in the back of my mind as well, I kind of decided as soon as I kind of saw Kirk qualify quite high and also, you know, fight for the podium, and was kind of, I think he was eager to try and chase P2. I think the lap counter wasn't really in his favour. The race was a few laps more. Potentially, obviously, we would have seen a battle between the 2 BMWs. So yeah, I fully agree with you. I think Kirk is the driver of the day for the purple lobby, and like you say, obviously had a good run of results in the sprint race as well. Wonder if he can bring that into the Nürburgring. Obviously, that is our next track. We're over to Germany, over to the Nürburgring GP layout. Obviously, the sprint race, it's going to be random weather, so it might provide us with a little bit of rain. But the feature race is where we're gonna see kind of how the drivers get on in wet conditions. I wonder which drivers are going to be slightly stronger, which obviously drivers may struggle a little bit. But I think a race that we're all excited to go and race, and obviously different conditions from what we've seen so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, wet weather, we were there a few times this season with wet weather. Of course, we're going to have 2 wet weathers, I believe. We're going to have Dragon Trail and Nürburgring, 9 and 10. So that's going to be pretty interesting. So 2 back-to-back potential wet weather races. So it's going to be interesting to see how drivers tackle it. Of course, we know that some of the more rear-heavy cars, such as the 458 and the Corvette, may not be as strong around wet weather, because of course more torque at the rear, and that's never nice for the rain. Of course, all the cars are rear-wheel drive, but a lot of the balance, it's a lot down to the balance as well. Some cars, they feel there's a lot more toll on the rear tires, and that's definitely going to affect some of the drivers who are driving them specific cars. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see how it plays out. I can't predict the future, but I'm sure I'll be able to predict the future when I watch the race, because I would watch the race.
Yeah, it's going to be obviously a tough one to call on kind of the cars, but obviously the 911s should be somewhat decent. I think obviously fuel is going to be kind of their downfall, but yeah, I'm excited to obviously see how the drivers get on in the wet conditions, and obviously, like you say, our our final rounds, the penultimate and the final, is going to be wet conditions, so it's going to be not enough. Well, it's going to be a short amount of time, obviously, for drivers to be adapted to the wet weather, but I'm sure they're up for the challenge. But I don't know about you. I think that kind of leads us perfectly on to go and see what the podium drivers, had to say, their thoughts and opinions on the race.
Absolutely.
Yeah, obviously, thank you for joining me, Mac, for the Purple Lobby feature race comms. Obviously, like I say, it's been good to see how the drivers kind of gelled within the race. Obviously, it's not something that we see very often, but I think it worked well, and also make sure to check out any clips and overtakes that the drivers may post. But obviously, before we end, make sure to go and check out Nighthawk Racing TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. Obviously, this is where all the content will be posted, and we will see you next week for the Nürburgring.
Midnight's pick of the week.
So, this round at St. Croix was much more difficult than what I was anticipating. It's a track that I enjoy. Overall, it wasn't an ideal performance. I think I got quite lucky in the sprint as well to benefit from a few incidents that happened in front of me, and getting that podium obviously feels good. Made a few mistakes, could have possibly challenged Mac a little bit more for P2, but have to be happy with that. And then qualifying just wasn't ideal, wasn't able to really show what I could do, and I just qualified below where I should have really. And then the feature race made lots of mistakes. It was a very weird race by a big contrast with the sprint. Just made lots of mistakes that I shouldn't have done. And I believe the car I'm gonna be honest, it didn't feel great. Just struggled a lot with understeer. It felt numb, unresponsive. It has been electric in a few of the other rounds, but today was pretty bad. Pretty bad experience. I must say that obviously it's not all down to the car. I mean, there was an element that is related to me. I should have done better overall, but the car didn't feel great. It didn't help. Bit of damage limitation, obviously. Hopefully I can improve in the next few rounds and have a good ending to the season. Hope to see you all very soon out on track.
I am absolutely ecstatic with my my result this round. Winning the sprint race, which fantastic. I can't believe it. So I was starting to come towards the back, lots of good overtakes. I think my favourite overtake being the one on the lead. I was leading quite a good job defending in the sprint race, but the cutback I made certainly left a smile on my face. And then moving on to the feature race, I words cannot describe my result. I can't believe it. P3, less than 20 seconds off the eventual winner of Kai. Obviously, we know Cade Kai, very, very fast driver. Only finished 20 seconds off, well, less than 20 seconds, I think he was 18. Very happy. I don't think I'm going to have the pace at the Nürburgring to be able to challenge for any podiums, but I'm certainly excited for it, and I say bring it on, because I'm ready for the challenge it will bring.
Driver of the day for round 8, Kirk Stancer. Next race for the Nighthawk Racing, F1 RST Season 3 Championship. A wet race at the legendary Nürburgring Grand Prix track for round 9.